to run your podcast?
Yeah, I was not working. I was actually playing D&D.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Sunday. Oh my god.
Holy shit! Yeah, it's Sunday. You don't say. Yes, yes, it is. Let's see. Let me just let me sound check. Like, Julie, can you just talk for a bit?
Yeah, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's
Okay,
up?
beautiful. All
Big
right.
connect.
Don't stop. Keep going.
Oh my, no, no, you
Never.
can stop. All right, wait, Luke, can you talk?
Yeah, what's up? What's up?
Okay, I think. Oh my god, please stop. No. No. Okay, I think we're actually pretty, like, for our scuffed setup, I think we're pretty well balanced.
Yeah. All right.
So we could just fucking do it. We can just get
Yo,
into
so
it.
you're recording? Or do you go 3, 2, 1, go?
We don't 3, 2, 1, go. I just here's how it works. I will hit the record button at some point that you don't know, and we'll just talk. And I think this works best because rather than like saying 3, 2, 1, go.
Because then it's like kind of weird. And
Yeah, you say 3, 2, 1.
Okay, guys, turn on your podcast selves.
Yeah.
Right.
If I say 3, 2, 1, go, and then everyone just doesn't say anything, it's really awkward. So
Okay. All right. Anyways, 3, 2, 1.
So wait, did you hit it already?
I'm not telling you.
Who knows?
Okay, am I? Well, I feel like I should at least introduce myself.
Oh my
'cause
God,
you have a
yeah.
bunch of listeners.
Okay,
right?
yeah. Let the professionals help you through this, Julie.
Okay,
Yeah.
so confirm that you hit record. Okay, anyway.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah, introduce yourself. Honored
I'll
guest.
play
Yeah.
Sure. Hello, I'm Julie. I would say I'm self-proclaimed #1 fan of your guys' podcast.
Yeah.
I comment on every single one, let it be known.
Yeah.
And well, for starters, I'm like mostly Teva's friend.
Yeah.
We knew each other in high school, but I feel like we really only became friends in college when I was at I don't know, Redacted for a short while.
No. Oh no, we've told everyone we've gone to college
Yeah, okay.
in San Diego. So
Yeah,
we were at
I was
UCSD.
at-
People can know that. That's okay.
Yeah.
But
I
good,
was
you're
at
already
UC
so professional.
Yeah, I was at UCSD for a couple quarters where me and Teva really hung out a bunch, and I met Luke there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to see Luke like every week because I would basically just show up in your guys' dorm room and be like, "What up?"
Yeah, you would just it's
Yeah.
because you lived off campus, and so you'd be like, "Yeah, I have a gap during class," and you just come and hang out, and that was honestly super fun. That was super cool.
Yeah,
Do you?
that was so much fun. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, do you remember the story of how we started hanging out like in college?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to tell it?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can tell
yeah.
your version, and then I'll give my edits of like what happened from my perspective.
Okay, what I think you're talking about
Yeah.
is so in high school we were on the same badminton team,
Yeah.
and just like by chance we happened to carpool to like one of the away games one time,
Mhm.
and this was like the first time I really ever chatted with Teva, and in my head I was like, dude, Teva is so funny, and I feel like we have so many similar interests, and I just feel like we get along really well. So at the end of high school, I wrote in your yearbook, I was like, yo, we should hang out sometime. I feel like we would get along really well. And like, I was like, yeah, just hit me up whenever you want, bro. Like, no pressure. And you never did.
This is so much more thoughtful than my version of the story.
Yeah, and so when it was time to go to college, I find out that both of us are going to UCSD, and not like I made any plans to like start hanging out with you there, but we show up at UCSD. I'm hanging out with like another guy we know from high school, and I'm just like, oh, let's try and like get people we know to hang out together. So I was like, oh, I know, I'll like text Teva because I like kind of know you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey Teva, like you want to come join us for dinner tonight or something? And you were just like,
okay,
no, I can't.
specifically, no. Okay, specifically, this is like, hey Teva, do you want to get Taco Tuesday?
Why do you remember that
Well, because
specific
it's
word?
iconic. It's iconic. You're like, yeah, do you want to go and like to Taco Tuesday with me and like my friend?
Shanway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whoa,
redacted.
redacted friend.
Sorry.
Whoa,
Ooh.
with redacted friend. But and I basically remember just being like, no.
Yeah, you were pretty straight up just like, nah, I can't. And I was like, and the way you like to tell this story is that I sent back a message like, and I was like, oh, okay, with like a sad face.
Yeah, well, cause I kind of said like, oh no, I can't. Literally like what you said, and literally in my head at the time, I was like, no, I can't make that day. I'm busy.
Yeah, right. And like I think the way you like to recount the story
Yeah.
is that that text that I sent you with the sad face or whatever was kind of like this realization moment that oh, like how I say things to other people kind of like
Oh my
affects
Wow.
what they think or feel about
You're
me,
like
right?
describing me becoming a human. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I like so from my perspective, I like send this message and then yeah, I get this message back from Julie which is like, "Oh, okay. No, that's okay." And then, like I can tell you're like really sad about it. So I'm like, "Oh, I don't want her to think like I don't want to hang out with her at all. I was just busy that day." And so then I send a follow-up message being like, "Oh, but if you want to do that again like next week or another time, we should definitely like hang out. Like I'm down to hang out."
Yeah.
I was just busy and had low like social intelligence.
Yeah, and speaking of Taco Tuesdays, we
Yeah.
actually went to have Taco Tuesdays at the on-campus Rubio's every single
Yeah.
Tuesday. I was there, and then I don't know what was wrong with me, but I was so adamant about staying faithful to Taco Tuesdays that if you guys got like a burrito or something, I would start shaming you. I was like, "Why did you not get tacos? Like, is something wrong with you? It's Taco
Yeah,
Tuesday.
it's not
It's not
burrito
Burrito
Yeah,
Tuesday."
dude. No, I remember it like became our tradition like the for freshman year of fall quarter. Like we'd always go to Rubio's and get tacos on Tuesday. And that's kind of how we really like first got to know each other.
Yeah,
And
and I don't know how I ended up like just hanging out with you guys at your dorm versus like anybody else, but
I just
I
think
don't
we
know,
were cool.
yeah, I don't know, you were just like easy to hang around, and that's how we became really good friends. And I mentioned I met Luke there, but I don't think I've ever really like sat down and chatted with Luke until like right this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up?
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice, nice.
as for Eric, I've never seen you
Yeah. Throwing you
ever.
in the deep end.
I was like, you see
Um,
my face at least, but
yeah, yeah,
never
yeah.
in person yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've seen your face, and I remember just like one random year, Eric was invited to like our high school friend Discord server, which like that's where I got to
Oh,
like kind of
really?
be in the same space as you that one time.
It was all of one time. And then someone was like, who the fuck is this guy? And I was like, yeah, you know what, fair.
Oh my.
Oh, that's definitely
uh,
something Julie would say.
okay, low key, you kind of right, but
Yeah,
I
it's
I
like
don't.
To be fair,
Yeah.
it wasn't Jules who said it though. It was
Yeah,
someone else, and then Jules was like, no, 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 that's Eric, you're cool. You got my back on that one. So
yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah.
you got
really?
me.
To
Oh,
be
You
shit.
got me.
fair, a lot of our friends in that high school friend group are, in my opinion, that group dynamic is a lot more like close slash private.
Oh,
So
yeah.
a lot of, Teva, you know what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
I
But
definitely know.
anyway,
This so I actually want to this is a good jumping off point because recently I got dinner with some friends back in the Bay, some of which including you had like listened to this podcast and were like, "Oh my goodness, Teva, I didn't realize you were like kind of funny."
yeah. Oh
I
my
was like,
God,
"Bro, what?"
dude.
They were like, "You're so bantery with Luke and Eric in the pod. How come you're like not like this in real life?" And I'm like,
Oh
"What?"
my God. It's because every time me and Teva get together, we have like, in my opinion, have these like super deep introspective like discussions. Like we talk about like each other's life phases and things that we're learning at that point. It's like super deep,
we
Loki.
we talk about like what it means to be an adult and
Yeah.
like oh you're like transitioning from like post college to like mid late 20s, like what does that look like as a person, what life struggles are you going through, like
Yeah, right. Those are like all of our discussions
yeah.
every time we get together. So when I started listening to you guys, I was just thinking, oh, I know Teva. I know he's gonna be like this and that. And then I started listening, and I'm like literally like, oh my God, Teva, Luke, Eric, you guys are all hilarious. Like the jokes you guys are saying, I'm like, oh my God, that's so witty. I'm like literally laughing out loud listening to this shit, and I'm like, dude, this is crazy. Like Teva has like this whole other side of him I never knew about.
Dude,
He was
I
holding
can't
back
believe
on
it.
you guys.
I'm just I there's nothing I can say here that isn't doesn't hurt someone's feelings. I'm just gonna but
Yeah,
no, I feel like you just naturally, like, as a person, express yourself differently with different people, but they're all still you. I think that's a big thing about coming of age. Like, this was a big thing for me, was I would, like, hang out with different friend groups, and I'd be like, who am I? Like, I act so differently, like, with certain people and then with others. And then you kind of realize, like, they're all elements of you. You just, like, show different sides depending on who you're hanging out with.
Yeah, and the fact that we're even going down this path for the convo right now, I'm like a little nervous because you guys also talk about this shit like all the time. So
Yeah.
I'm like, dear listeners, I'm sorry if you guys have to listen to the exact same convo for the 10th time. Like, I
Dude,
just me and Tev, the dynamic is just like that.
I feel like if we can't remember what we talk about, I don't know if our listeners will either.
They, I was gonna say they already listen to the same convo half the time
We
from us,
just
so
do
it's
it ourselves.
fine.
We literally, it is a
Uh,
meme for us to like preface. Like we might have talked about this before on the pod,
Yeah.
um, but no, I mean, so that is how I know you, Julie. And one of the things I remember us like definitely like bonding over initially was kind of like games and like anime. Like, is there anything like
Oh.
fun you're watching or doing in your free time, or is there like, do you have any like anime hot takes you'd like to share?
Oh shit, do I got some hot
Oh
takes for
yes,
y'all,
yes.
okay?
Neurons were activated there.
Before I jump into the anime games
Yeah.
talk, I was just gonna say, like, all the podcasts I listen to, Eric has come off as like super relatable and also
I
like
love
super
that.
not relatable at the same time. And I just want, like, as the person I know the least here, like, I just feel like this like connection with you that is not established at all in any way. Anyway,
Dude,
my hot
I
take.
love this. We're getting parasocial already. This is beautiful.
I
I know.
love this.
I
Like, I
know.
don't know you at all.
I just I get that. I
Yeah.
feel like Eric is the most polarizing.
Right.
I'm like
I inhabit both spheres.
Luke and I are very like grounded.
Right.
Oh, what does that say about me? Hello?
I just think it means you have like good takes that are like super relatable experiences, but not everyone has those. You know? Or
I
you're
was
crazy.
just thinking about
Yeah.
like
I mean, yeah.
Eric plays TFT. I'm like, yo, I love TFT.
That's not no, don't say that.
What do you think I was doing like 30 minutes before this?
Oh my god, no. That's
Okay.
fair. We need you here for this, Eric. You make us relatable.
So true.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anime
my
hot
hot take
takes.
number one about
Yes.
anime. Jujutsu Kaisen is not only mid, it is bad.
What?
Ooh,
Oh
spicy.
no! This is how
Skip in the
it's gonna
game
start.
here.
Okay, wait. So yeah, go ahead. Elaborate. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
My opinion is that for let's go by points. Like, I
Yeah.
think it tries a little too hard to be slapstick funny, and a lot of the times it comes off like out of place or like forced. I think the animation is like fine, but it's not as good as everyone touts it to be, which there's like a gap in expectation there, so
Eric
disappointment.
Eric is screaming internally right now, just so you know. But keep going,
I'm
keep
just, like,
going. This is
just
great.
muted the entire time, screaming and raving, crying and vomiting.
Yeah, another thing is they overly explain like their moves, which I know is kind of maybe a common thing in shonen where they're like internally monologuing about the logistics of their like weird random move that like transcends time and space or whatever. They just like do too much of it. A lot of the stuff I feel like it would be fine slash like less infuriating if they just went ahead and did it, suspended disbelief, and I didn't have to know shit about like the quote unquote like logic of it. And like, yeah, I don't know. I watched through the whole first season, hating it. I was just like, when does it get good? People told me this was good. Like, when does it get good?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's my hot take. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah. I'm sure
I think your
Eric.
hot take is bad. No,
No, like I do agree at least with the comedy bit. So like I'm someone where I get thrown off by out of place comedy a lot. For whatever reason I didn't get bothered by it as much with JJK. I know with like Demon Slayer, that one does take me out of it from time to time.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that one, like, do you feel the same about Demon Slayer? Because I think Demon Slayer does it a lot more.
Demon Slayer has like a similar comedic style, right? And they do like similar bits where they kind of like change the art style a little bit and have this little funny moment. It does take me out of it a little bit. It like ruins the like flow slash pacing. However, I'm a little more okay with it because I think they execute it better, and I can't really pinpoint what they do that makes it better than like Jujutsu Kaisen, but I do mind it not as much.
I mean, I think the fact that like Demon Slayer, all like the bits where they do that, it's like a very clearly distinct animation style. Like it goes from like very like anime to like basically like almost like stick figures, right? Like it's part of like
Yeah,
the
they go like
aesthetic of the
chibi
joke.
style.
Yeah, they go chibi style. Like it's very noticeable and distinct. So yeah, I think I think that's maybe part of it. What do you think about the animation, like Eric? Though, like you always like tout like JJK as having like really good animation.
Yeah, so I personally really like JJK's animation because, and I've said this before, I like the animation over Demon Slayers because I feel like those are the two common comparisons.
Yeah,
Just
the two
because
big
I
shonen.
like I don't know, I am someone who focuses on like small details a lot, and I really do like the smaller details that are there in JJK's compared to like the flashier. And that's not to say that I don't like Demon Slayers. Like Demon Slayers has really good spectacle end of the day, but as far as like a general animation thing, I just prefer JJK's more, just because I think there's more attention to detail. But that's more of a personal thing. I still like both, but I just prefer
Mm.
JJK's animation. I think part two, I mean, this is more of like a by chance. I got to see a lot of the work of the actual animators who did JJK and a lot of their behind the scenes work, and that I really like that stuff. And seeing the amount of detail they put into that is really cool to me.
Do you not think if you like saw that for Demon Slayer though, you'd also be like equally amazed? Because I'm sure like a huge amount of work goes into like Demon Slayer's animations.
I'm sure I would, but I don't know. I'm also just biased to the
Yeah,
actual
you
animator
picked your
who does.
side.
I
You picked
picked
your
my
team.
side.
Yeah,
I've
are
dug
you
my
a
grave.
yeah, that's
Well,
fair.
I just think like people have touted like JJK's animation overall, but specifically the fight scenes. And like while I can see that the fight scenes are really dynamic and everything, the way they capture motion blur is like somewhat chaotic slash messier than I prefer.
Mm.
So I don't like the look of it. I can see that the choreography and like the storyboarding and everything is really dynamic and like full of movement and everything. I just don't like the way they executed it.
Mm.
I think your last point is really interesting about like the internal monologuing and like over explanation and like Jujutsu Kaisen.
Oh,
Um,
dude, I had to fast forward. I never watch anime on 2x. I
oh
think
thank
it's a
God, you're a human.
sin.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
it's ridiculous.
enjoy the medium, enjoy the art for as it was intended, please. But for JJK, bro, I turned that shit up. I turned that shit up to like 2x, 4x. I was like, enough talk. There's like this dude in like bandages or some shit. Oh my
Yeah.
god, I totally.
Oh yeah.
He's like describing his life struggle, and he
Dude.
literally sounded like that character from SpongeBob who was like, I was born with paper thin skin,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
each
Okay.
morning I wake
I
up and break my arms and legs.
I definitely got the exact same impression of that guy when that first. I was actually like cracking up when I first saw that.
Yeah, that's a
Oh my
little
god.
ridiculous.
It was so ridiculous. I was just like, I was telling my boyfriend who I was watching it with, and I was like, dude, you ever seen SpongeBob? This is literally that guy who has like the worst life ever. Well, he hasn't seen SpongeBob, so
Dude,
it's like, okay, never
relatable.
mind.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with not seeing SpongeBob.
Oh yeah, nothing at all.
It's mid.
Um,
Okay.
are we ready to move on to hot take number two?
Okay, wait, whoa. I still have some things I want to
Oh,
talk about, but I'm
okay.
glad you got the hot
Okay.
takes. I feel like internal monologuing is just something that is like endemic to like anime as a whole. Like this is something that and I don't think I mentioned this explicitly, or maybe I did, but it's like this idea of like subtlety in anime.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine, he is like not into anime at all. He's like down to watch it, but he hasn't like been exposed to it a bunch. But he's really into like film, like American film. And he's like, yeah, one of the big things that like takes me out of like anime is how little they like let the viewer figure things out on their own. They like always are constantly like over explaining and over narrating like everything that's happening and not like letting certain actions or things be like done subtly or like left for the viewer to interpret why they're taking these actions. And I think that's like
Mm-hmm.
really true in anime as a whole, not even just like Jujutsu Kaisen. I think like the classic like person is falling in anime and explains for 5 minutes how they're going to break their fall as it's happening. It's like it's I get it. It's just like just do the thing, right? Just do the
That's
thing.
so funny. I
Yeah.
think there's a particular reason why they do that.
Yeah.
And like, outside of like the just classic shonen tropey kind of stuff, it a lot of times I feel like it's a Lelouch moment. That's
Yeah.
what I like to call it. They're
Yeah.
like trying to do all this over explanation to show how smart and thoroughly this character thinks.
Hey, leave
Like
my
for
boy Lelouch
example,
out of this.
yeah, like for example, in Death Note, there's
Yeah.
like a bunch of internal monologuing, and then the impression you're supposed to get as like the watcher is like, oh, this dude is like thinking about all this shit like 50 million steps ahead of everyone else, blah 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 blah, and
Yeah,
then
he's
they're gonna
hella smart.
execute it to perfection. Oh my god, they're so Lelouch, you know.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's so ridiculous that you use Death Note as the example when it's like way older.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I just call
Yeah.
it the like
No,
the
I get
Lelouch
you.
moment
Yeah,
because
it's
like
the here, let's show this character is really smart.
yeah,
Yeah.
speaking of which,
Yes.
Lelouch,
Yeah?
I watched Code Geass in
Yeah.
recent years,
Mhm.
because it has been touted as like an amazing series.
This is what we're gonna do today, Julie.
We're just fighting people.
The man stands
We're gonna
for.
fight. Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And it was fine. I'm gonna think that, you know, our younger peers who really enjoyed that series probably thought it was like such big brain amazing stuff when they watched it when they were like 15 or 16. I
feel
mean,
like
I'm
you're just
27.
describing Teva.
I'm
We have
catching
another friend
strays.
who also thinks the same, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm 27. I probably watched that shit when I was like 24, and
Okay.
I was like, okay, bro, like you're really smart and stuff, I guess, and I don't know. But
You're missing I'm gonna be that guy, like semi-ironically. It's like you're missing the whole point of the show.
tell me unironically, what is the whole point?
It's not the whole point. I agree. I think there's a lot of like narrative conflict and planning, and like I like shows which are like kind of like political dramas, which I think Code Geass kind of falls into, where it's like trying to maneuver and plan your way across like against an enemy that is equally smart and intelligent and maneuvering against you. I like that dynamic. I also think like for me, it's a big part of the show is like showing that like Lelouch is not just like the super smart brainiac like who has everything figured out, and that he's actually like that's who he tries to be and pretends to be, but he's really like he really just wants to be a normal like high school kid. I think like deep internally.
Yeah.
And I think there are like certain scenes and aspects of the show that kind of show that where like he had like a really tough childhood and upbringing, and like he really is still a human and is like constantly conflicted throughout the show.
Right.
But yeah, that's like my nerd like why I love Code Geass rant. I also think the show.
Yeah,
Just
I mean, you
really
make it
well
sound
paced.
really good.
And then you watch it and you're like, Teva, there's none of this at all in the show. What are you talking about? Yeah, I get it. It's also like with anything that's like older too, you have to like think about how it's aged. Like Code Geass like probably aired like what, like over 10 years ago for sure, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like an old show by today's standards, and everyone like complains like if you look at like what the characters look like, it's like, bro, why are they drawn like that? It's like what
Hey, man,
why are their proportions
I love
so weird?
Clamp designs.
Oh my god, is that the studio or the just
Yeah,
the name for
Clamp.
it?
Clamp is like this 4-woman mangaka group
Oh, okay.
who created the character designs for Code Geass, but
Ah,
I believe Code Geass is like a TV original series, so there's no like original
manga,
material
yeah.
to work off of it.
Gotcha.
But Clamp also writes a bunch of like manga series and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, that tracks. I mean, like, I don't know. I just like people complain and I'll be like, would you rather it like look like Claned or something? Like, I don't know. People watch
Oh, hell
fucking
nah,
Claned
bro.
and go like,
God,
oh my god,
okay.
have you seen Claned After Story? Oh my god, it's so good. It's like, bro, they're still bunk people. Like, fucking get over it. Just,
Bruh, hell no. I try to watch Clanad because of how, like, again, like, clouded it is. Oh,
Yeah.
dude, it was, first of all, I know it gets good, like, way later.
Not worth
It was
it.
too fucking boring. I was like,
Just-
nah, I'm quitting, bro.
Yeah.
And they're also so ugly.
True.
Oh my god,
we don't like uggos, you know.
I'm gonna try it because I know a lot of our viewers might not be as familiar with anime. If you watch the YouTube video and have it on the background, and now it's too late, but you'll see, like, I'm gonna try and have images flash up so you know the designs and the shows we're talking about, so you can at least have a sense of like what we're like getting at when we're talking about these designs, you know?
Oh, hell yeah, you
but
gotta
yeah.
do that, man.
Yeah. This episode gonna be slightly more edited. Oh, so much work for me.
Listen, man, the guest episode gotta be special,
That's
especially
true.
when it's me.
You're-
Like, you know, we're
Julie,
gonna be talking about some weird shit. Like,
You're episode 10. You're our first double digit. We
Yeah.
Oh hell
are
yeah!
almost at puberty.
Nice.
Ew.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't like the
oh,
way you said
I don't know
that,
okay,
about
well,
but
okay, well, I didn't think it was that weird. I was just, it's a number, whatever, guys.
Yeah.
Can we
Just
get,
number, huh?
Anyway, moving on. Next hot
Just-
yeah,
take.
can we get hot take number
Okay.
2? Yeah, okay,
okay. Hot
relax,
take
bro.
number 2. It's about a more like recent anime
Mhm.
series, and well, before I start this hot take, I just wanted to mention my boyfriend knows I'm like doing this thing with you guys. He was
Aw.
like, "Oh, I'll listen to the podcast like after when Teva like releases it," and I was like, "Cool." And I'm just thinking how my boyfriend is gonna listen to the exact same shit I tell him all the fucking time about these goddamn anime hot takes. Anyway.
Well, now he can listen to it over and over again on loop.
I think about that all
Anyway.
the time. Yeah.
Yeah. My next hot take, it's about this series called Shadow in Eminence. Have you guys heard of it?
I've heard of it.
Oh, I've heard of
No.
it. It's like, yeah, it's a really weird. You should just explain it, Julie. Both Eric and I have
Okay.
heard of it.
Yeah, so it's a really hyped up manga, and from what I understand, the manga is quite good. What it's about is it's like an ultimate parody of all isekais. So the way it works is that it just goes like it turns the isekai up to 11, and you know the protagonist, he's hella cringe, hella edgy, hella like overly powerful. He says all this cringy ass shit, and then you know everything just kind of like works out for him, and that's what I understand the appeal to be. I haven't read the manga, but they recently adapted it into an anime, and because I had heard that it was so like hyped up, I decided to check it out. And I don't a lot of people say they really enjoy it, but I think it's terrible. And the reasons I think it's terrible is because, well, one, I don't think I'm missing the point that it's supposed to be a parody. I think the vibe that comes across is that it's genuinely like a terrible isekai. I don't think they executed the parody moments well enough for me to be like, haha, like, oh my god, like that's so funny because in normal isekais, but like I know that's what they're trying to do. But when I'm watching it, I'm just like, this shit sucks. Like,
Yeah, I feel like a prerequisite for like a parody is it can't just be the same thing as the baseline thing, but like, no, don't worry guys, we're aware it's bad. Like, you gotta do a little more than that, right? Like,
yeah, and another issue I have with it, like aside from the comedy aspect of it, is that like the pacing slash like explanation stuff is terrible because I started watching it, I was like 3 to 5 episodes in or something, and I had like no idea what was happening. I was like, what? Like, the what's supposed to be happening is this like cringy edgelord is kind of just like making shit up as he goes along, but it turns out like unbeknownst to him, all this shit that he said like out of his ass is actually true in real life. So he's like in his own head, he's kind of like pretend running this dark secret organization fighting some like other organization, and he kind of like is just pretending, but
Yeah.
it turns out all that stuff is real. And
that's weird and interesting. I think it might be good to like help some of the viewers, like just to give some context of what, like, because a lot of people might not know what an isekai is. A lot of people might not like
here we go.
know the yeah. Well, so isekai is like, I would say it's like a whole genre of anime where like the fundamental like center point is you take a person from like our world and you magically somehow transport them to like a fantasy world, right? And this genre, yeah. Did you something you wanted to like add to that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if any of you viewers have heard of like Sword Art Online, which like was the first big isekai back in the day, if you're familiar with the premise of that, it's basically that. Oh
yeah,
you
it's
can
like
go on.
transported to a virtual. No worries. Yeah, you're transported to like a different world, often like a fantasy setting. And the problem, like for me, the big problem with this genre is it's like a huge like wish fulfillment, like fucking I don't know what the word is, but it's basically like a giant like yeah, it's like a self-insert wish fulfillment genre where 90% of the time it is you have person with shitty life go to fantasy world as a guy, as like a generic like guy, and get surrounded with like beautiful anime girls and have like an anime girl harem of like elves and like other people, and it's all like fun and happy, but it's also like very yeah, just like you can tell it's like pandering to
Yeah, it's like
people.
a basically like a fantasy for, like, no offense, like loser ass dudes out there.
Yeah, yeah, based like literally, and it's hugely popular in Japan. No offense to Japanese people, but like, but
Okay, maybe a little.
okay, yeah, Japan has its own set of problems for many reasons, but yeah, and so like this show, like even if it's being self-aware, it sounds like it's just kind of doing more of the same, and maybe even like turning the dial like higher on that like
Yeah,
level of like wish fulfillment.
yeah, like I'm gonna repeat myself here.
Yeah,
Like,
go
don't get
for it.
me wrong. I understand what the intention of the show is. It's supposed to be making fun of isekais. I just think, as like someone who didn't read the manga, jumping straight into the anime, it's not clear like what the story is. The humor really isn't that funny. It's like, I can see it. It's just not
I,
that
I
good.
feel like you're being so nice and you're like already like defending yourselves from like the swarms of angry fans being like, I can't believe
Yeah,
you shit on Eminence and Shadow. It's so
it's because I
bro,
see so much praise for
dude.
it online.
I think it's
I
so shit. Like Eric and I, we have the same thing about like Doctor Stone.
Oh.
Oh, yes, yeah. I feel like you guys have mentioned that before.
Yeah,
Oh, I definitely have for sure.
yeah. It's just like one of those shows which is again like highly praised in general by the community, and then like you kind of watch it and you're like, this is just shitty writing. Like this is just
Okay,
Yo,
yeah.
Julie, do you
true.
like any isekais? Like, do you in general dislike or like isekais?
There are two good ones I can tell you about.
Uh,
That's it.
okay, so isekais, I'm okay with the concept. Like, one world, you go into another, and you have to kind of like, figure out what's happening there. I think that itself is fine. I think my issue, well, in general with isekais, I'm not a big fan of like this medieval Europe-y setting usually.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that can be, I can overlook that if the writing's really good or the characters are really good. Like, the setting really isn't the deal breaker here. It just so happens that many isekais fall into that kind of setting for whatever reason. Like, I don't know.
I mean,
Um,
you can also just have like a fantasy show that is set in like a fantasy world, right? Like it's basically like a
yeah,
very fantasy setting. You just have to throw in the fact that like okay, but the main character came from the human world and they were reborn in this world. Like it matters.
yeah. There's a currently airing like quote unquote isekai. I attach this label to it very loosely because it's not really about the isekai part. But
Oshinoko.
yeah, yo,
Okay, whoa, no
this guy
spoilers, no spoilers,
knows.
no spoilers,
Yeah, no
no
spoilers, but
spoilers.
that,
Oshinoko,
yeah,
it's not an isekai.
yeah. That's why I was like,
Yeah.
it's like
I get it.
technically kind of, but not really. But yeah, I have no issue with the loose skeleton form of isekais. I have a lot more issue with like how they typically go and how they all fall into the same pattern and blah 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 blah. I
What,
don't care because it's
what,
a loser dude.
why'd you ask the question, Eric? Out of
I
curiosity.
was wondering just because you know how I stand on them, and I pretty much despise them.
Sure, yeah.
And
That's
again,
a
for
good
the doesn't
opinion.
reason, because like I think for a lot of these, because we're talking about how a lot of these guys just end up not being that good, especially a lot of these shows that are hyped up. And I just think a lot of people really like them, but I think they're really bad. Like
And,
a
Yeah.
lot of them are really
I
bad. So
mean,
I was just wondering if it was a case of like maybe it was just like the general populace dislikes, or if it's just isekais as well too
I
that just so coincidentally fall into that.
I have a take, which is I think this is actually a huge problem for anime as a medium as a whole, which is like I really like anime and like a lot of my friends that are not as into it like joke about how much of a weeb I am. But I feel like again, and this is like gonna fall into that archetype of like not to be that guy, but I think there's so much like really cool and beautiful medium that like anime encompasses and then just really like bottom tier dog shit like what's appealing to the lowest common denominator, like wish fulfillment, like crappy shit that's just really unfortunate. And a lot of like as a whole like just kind of things about like anime and anime culture I think are really cringe and sad that they like permeate the medium so heavily. Like I was just watching a video the other day about it was like a Giguk video, and he was basically talking about how like what are good anime to like start people watching who have never seen any anime before. and he basically like knocks out like a bunch of really really good shows, because it's like you don't want to like introduce like a quote unquote normie who or someone who hasn't watched anime like with this show, because they're gonna be like, why are her titties out all the time, or like or why does he like why is this man like sexually harassing like women left and right, and it's like, yeah, you know, that's kind of not cool actually.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of these stupid ass degenerate anime tropes that are like present in an otherwise really good show.
Yeah.
It's like, why are her titties flopping?
Yeah.
Yeah, all over the place.
Like so this isn't the exact same example, but like Steins Gate, for example, is like, I think a lot of people's like one of the top animes like historically is like Steins Gate.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to recommend to people because it's like, how much do you know about otaku culture? Because it takes place basically like in Akihabara, with like half the people being like full otakus or weebs, or like one of the main girls, like she's like a cat maid. Like,
yeah, they're not gonna get the cat maids.
yeah,
man.
there's just
Word.
Yeah, word, relatable. Like there's just so many like layers of like anime culture that like are just ingrained in us, and we kind of ignore. Like it's bad because like I remember like I was talking with Eric and I was like, yeah, the show's pretty good, and like I was just saying like, why'd they have to make her titties so big? And Eric was like, honestly, low-key, those are like kind of like
yeah, those are small.
Those are small for anime standards. I'm like, bro, like that's not okay. That's just not like, and so I get it.
True.
Now we live in a society, Teva.
We do, and it sucks because you have like really, really good shows that like don't have that, and I think it's like really nice that they don't have that. I think obviously like the biggest one, like not historically, but like Attack on Titan is one that I think doesn't fall into the tropes nearly as much, but it's problematic in other areas. But like,
oh my god,
but
me, bro.
well,
yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah.
I actually recently just caught up with Attack on Titan, the anime. I'm
Oh.
not a manga reader, let that be known.
Okay, fair enough.
I know
That's fair.
Luke is a heavy manga reader. I'm sorry.
I think
bro.
everyone
But-
here
Yeah,
has
so
read the
good.
manga.
You are not missing anything except
Okay.
for the ending by not reading the manga.
That is
Yeah.
true.
You know, the
Yeah.
ending itself is
Dude,
Yeah, no
Yeah.
spoilers, bro.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah, no worries, no
Yeah.
spoilers
Yeah.
here.
I recently caught up with all of the anime finally, and it was so good. I was obsessed. And I mean, I'd like to hear what like other problems that you have with it because I'm kind of curious.
Okay, there's no way to talk about it without getting into spoiler territory. I will say, I think the anime for Attack on Titan is actually really good. The biggest issue I actually have with the show is how they have marketed the like kind of like ending and winding down of the series, because basically there are major plot points that happen in Attack on Titan, and they marketed like kind of the start of this major plot point as Attack on Titan the final season. And now I think we're
I
on
know what you're
fucking
saying.
Attack on Titan the final season part 3-2 or some shit
Okay,
like
yeah,
that.
that's fucking
You know,
ridiculous.
It's so dumb, like marketing wise. But
yeah, it's crazy.
but as a show, it still goes fucking hard. And even if there are like plot points that I don't like as much or don't agree with or whatever, like the show goes fucking hard and is really, really good, and is not that shitty tropey. Like it's actually just like telling a story. So I actually think Attack on Titan, like I agree that it's one of the best shows to start people on for like watching anime.
Dude, but if they're gonna watch anime, like even after watching Attack on Titan, it's just like a downhill, like
Well, you gotta it's like it's kind of like a drug addiction in a way. You start them off on the good stuff, and then they like get a taste for it, and then they keep going, and eventually they're like, yeah, I'll watch this shitty isekai.
Dude.
I don't know, man. I started on Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood,
Oh,
and
that's great
since
too.
then I've been like, there's not any good anime.
Bro.
And so I just don't watch a lot because I know I'm not going to enjoy most of the stuff I watch. Like circling back to like isekai stuff.
Yeah.
I only watched one, and it was when I got reincarnated as a slime or whatever that is.
Oh my god.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I watched one
title just sounds like trash.
I watched one episode because people were super hype on it. I'm like, this show is so boring. And
Yeah.
I never watched it anymore.
Yeah.
My favorite isekai is Greed Island arc in Hunter x Hunter.
Oh my god, Hunter x Hunter is a great show too. That maybe I don't think it has that bad of anime tropes. I don't remember. Maybe I'm forgetting.
I think it
No, I think it's
does a little bit, but like not
it
excessive.
has other problematic issues that I don't think are anime tropes.
yeah,
Like
it has the level 2 anime tropes.
Yeah, like the main antagonist is kind of a pedophile. That's
Yeah,
problematic.
yeah.
But thankfully, that's not as much of an anime trope unless it's about high school girls, which is a terrible anime trope. But
It's like, how do
Bruh.
you make a character instantly dislikable? We'll just make him a sexual predator.
yeah,
It's so
it
easy.
is easy.
Yep.
Again,
I hate.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you first.
And I was just to bounce off the high
Yeah.
school girl thing. I just hate how all the like romancy stuff has to happen in high school. Is it not
Yeah.
like is it not easy to just age them up into college kids? They still have like a classroom setting, they still have classmates, like reasons to be around each other. Like what is this obsession with high school?
It's the last happy time in
It
No,
really is.
it's not.
It really is.
In Japan,
for a lot
probably.
of the Japanese people, I'm pretty sure high school is like the last bastion of youth.
Which is crazy to me
Yeah.
because I feel like the portrayal of high school is like you go to cram classes, you like fucking are miserable most of the time. Sure, you have your like high school festival shit, but you're still like studying hard to get into a good university. I would think university would be more of a better like bastion of like freedom than like high school, but I don't know enough about Japanese culture.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for one thing, I don't know if it's like expected that most Japanese kids even go to university, but also like just age them up, bro. It's so weird. Like
Yeah. It's actually the like real life equivalent of like casting like 25-year-olds as like high schoolers. Japan
Oh
just
my
doesn't do.
God.
They just draw like adult women and be like, "You are a high schooler, by the way." Like that's just what they do.
Oh my god, so true.
Yeah, it's the same. We're no different.
What
But
were
yeah,
you gonna say before I rudely interrupted you?
it was about the high school girl thing too, which is like
Oh.
I also feel like if I'm at the point too where similar to Luke, it's like I feel like a show has to be like really good or special to make it worth my time to like watch and invest in. And I feel like if a show is like set in high school, it better be doing something like damn special or I just don't care. Like the high school setting is so boring to me. And that's probably like an age thing, and I get it. Like a lot of people who watch anime might be young and in high school, and so it might appeal to them.
Right.
But I feel like high school isn't that like I don't know. I don't recall it being like that cool or that great or that special of a time. I actually feel like my college days are like way more romanticized in my mind and way more fun of a time than like high school.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm like speaking out a little bit out of ignorance here because obviously we're like Americans with like a Western
Definitely.
point of view
Yeah.
on like Eastern media, but it's just like you know, some of these series set in high school will have like such amazing character development, or like the characters will have such great awareness, or like have such great like ideas or whatever.
Or, like,
and I'm just like,
introspect.
dude, yeah, they're
In
like,
high
these
school.
are not high schoolers. High schoolers would not do this shit. Like,
Yeah.
just stop saying they're high schoolers because this is like some adult, like, this is like developed brain behavior, you know?
And so that's why, like, to I guess tangent off of it a little bit. I think that's why I like Mob so much.
Mob Psycho
Like
100.
Mob Psycho, because
Oh.
it shows so like it has the for anyone who doesn't know, Mob Psycho is basically focused on middle schoolers, right?
Yes.
But that's more of like a backdrop to certain things, but it's really like the main focus of it is kind of that kind of not child development.
Okay, coming of age, please. Like you Yeah.
So basically of coming of age, right? But it also in doing so focuses a lot on just how people are in general, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's what it does really, really well. Like it doesn't try to be something it's not, and it really creatively takes the themes that it has and packages it into like no one's gonna be like middle schooler. That I relate to a middle schooler, you know. Like most people
Right.
aren't gonna look at that on like a face level, you know.
I think they kind of do, but through like a nostalgic lens, right? Like I remember what it was like to grow up and not have answers to the questions that like he is posing as a middle schooler to like the adults in his life, right? Like I think you can
Right.
relate to that.
No, I mean in the sense of like you're not gonna relate to being a middle schooler like at that exact moment, but like more so like the things that they make him go through are very relatable end of the day. Right? It's just the lens of how it happens, and I think that's why the show is really good. Like I think it's the show that I recommend the most to people starting off, just because it doesn't rely on a lot of tropey things, and I think the tropey things that it does is kind of like whatever. Like actually, it's not even that much realistically. But yeah,
Yeah, I
it
don't
just
think it's
does
that bad.
story really well. Like, it does comedy really well. It does heartfelt moments really, really well. And I've mentioned that enough times before.
So true. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, good show.
I really enjoy like Mob Psycho's like really human parts. It's obviously still like a shonen, actiony, full of excitement
It's still
anime.
fiction, yeah.
But I think what makes Mob Psycho stand out from all the rest is like it's really human, like soulful moments. Like, you know, Mob might not be able to understand like these moments he's having, but he's like experiencing them. He's experiencing like feelings. And it yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much else to say. You're
I
right.
mean,
It's a fucking weird show.
can I bounce off that and say, has anyone here, have you guys watched Soul, like the Disney Pixar movie?
Oh
I
yes, I
actually
have.
haven't.
Have you, Luke?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well then you're not gonna relate to this, but it's a Disney Pixar movie about like kind of like in my mind a similar idea, which is like kind of
Like
losing
jazz?
yeah, losing your youthful like innocence and like becoming jaded with the world. And I think Mob does a
Oh,
good job of
bro.
portraying both of these at the same time, where it's like Mob is still very young and innocent and like kind of precious and naive, and his mentor in the show, Reagan, is much more jaded and like has basically had to like adapt his lifestyle and who he is as a person to like living in the real world as an adult. And I think there's a connection to Soul, which is kind of tackling the same idea where essentially basic plot point of the movie, main guy is like living life, it sucks, and then he goes to like reincarnation world, which is like the premise of Soul, like where all the souls go when people die, and kind of experiences life with like a new young soul and sees how like they feel about life essentially. That's the basic idea. If you watch it, it'll be slightly different because no spoilers, but that that's the general idea. And so I really like that theme because I feel as a, you know, basically like upper mid 20-year-old, you kind of are like, I really feel like in that transitionary point where it's like I'm definitely out of college now. I've like
Mhm.
been living like life as a pseudo adult for like a while, and it's kind of like, I don't know, to me it's like a very different existence than like everything that came before it. Starting
Yeah,
Right.
from
don't you wish
graduating
you
from
were
undergrad.
back in high school?
Not really. Not really. I think being back in college, like again, assuming I keep all like the information I have now and all the experiences and knowledge I have, I think that could be a lot of fun. I think like going back in time to college with like knowing what I know now. Um, but yeah, I feel like life is so much more open-ended.
Yeah.
The phrase or expression like to use is like back when you're a kid, like progression just happens naturally by virtue of existing. You just get older and life progresses forward. Like you turn 13, oh, new like stuff unlocked. You like
Right.
finish summer vacation, new class, new grade, new material, all just unlocked for you, right?
Right.
And then you
Like
hit,
I
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. Go.
I
No,
was
I was just gonna relate because
Yeah.
I thought you
Oh,
were
okay.
done with your
No,
thought. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
can keep going all day, but
Yeah.
but like you hit an adult and it's like, oh boy, let's say I turned fucking 28 this year. What's changed? Nothing unless you make it change yourself.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm totally in that transitory period too. I
Yeah.
mean, we've talked about this extensively, especially recently when you were back in the area.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess for context for like Luke and Eric, I'm like also in like a transitory stage. I decided to like switch careers and try and get into something completely new. And you know, when I first started this journey like almost 2 years ago, I was really arrogant in that I thought like, oh, I'll just like self-learn for like 6 months or a year and then I'll just get a job in the new field that I want. And um I totally
Yeah,
like
that sounds
resonate
ambitious.
with that thing you were saying. Like nothing changes unless you like personally go out of your way to make sure that it happens. Because
Mm-hmm.
you know when you're in school, like boom, you graduate because everyone else like they just have the system here for
Yeah.
you. Um,
You're just following
and
the
then
train
when
tracks, essentially.
yeah, when
Yeah.
you're off the train tracks, you're like shit. I gotta drive on the fucking dirt road.
Gotta figure out what I want to do myself. Like, what do I want? That's a crazy question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you were back recently, we were having like this really good convo
Yeah.
talking about like what we personally define to be like success or
Mm.
whatever. And I feel like, oh my god, we're totally moving like completely 180 topic.
Welcome to
but
the podcast. Yeah. Welcome to the Teva and
Just
Friends
go
podcast,
with
by the way.
flow.
This is how it works. In one moment we're like
Yeah.
bantering about why anime sucks, and the next we're like, so tell me about your life.
yeah, or yeah,
Or
just
your
to like
aspirations and dreams. What do you want?
yeah,
Yeah.
just to like kind of repeat some of the stuff that we've already talked about, like particularly in this time of my life where I'm still like trying to get somewhere with, you know, my career and everything. It's like it it's really like an unsettling feeling. You know what? Yeah, that's it. I forgot my train of thought there,
No,
but yeah.
that totally happens. I think it's just like this idea that it to me it's kind of like almost scary because it's again another analogy I like to use a lot. It's like I consider like K through 12 like the prologue of life. Like literally this is like the prologue. It's kind of like Vinland Saga where the prologue is nothing like the rest of the show. Like
I have not
you-
seen
You
Vinland Saga.
graduate 12th grade and it's like end of prologue.
the prologue, yeah. And then you start the next phase. And if you go to college, which you don't like have to, you can go to like community college, you can not go to college, you can go to a trade school. Whatever you do after that, to me, is chapter 1. So for me, chapter 1 was like undergraduate education. And like any game, chapter 1 is still, in my opinion, grading on a curve of the game, like dropped like easy, like relative. And it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily feel that way at the time. That's like a good game. Is like, oh, chapter 1 is teaching me stuff and I'm learning and I'm getting better. It still might be challenging at the time, but if you look back at chapter 1, you're like, this was so free. Like relative to
True!
what yeah.
Yeah.
No, get me
easy.
back in kindergarten, man. I would like skip so many grades.
Oh
Holy
my
crap.
god. Julie wants to learn how to tap A. Yeah, no, so that is definitely like how I feel. And I feel like, so once you get like chapter 2, it's like an open world game and you're like, you're allowed to do whatever you want. You have like 24 hours in a day. Obviously you need to sleep, eat, you need to acquire resources so you can live your life, like work a job, get money. But past that, it's like, it's your life to live. You have all the freedom. You get to make all the choices, which is really cool, but also really scary.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I have I like bouncing off that,
Yeah.
that kind of reminded me, going back to my intro a little bit. I
Yeah.
mentioned I was at UCSD for a couple quarters, and the reason I wasn't at UCSD for 4 years
Yeah.
is because I actually got academically disqualified. And
Yeah.
the reason for that was because I was just basically slacking off really hard. And you know, your talk about like having like anything kind of goes reminded me of that time because I was like a strict rule follower, and like if things definitely fell within the rules, then I felt like okay, then nothing outside the rules like exists.
Yeah.
And how that's relevant in me getting academically disqualified was that I was only a freshman, and my roommate at the time tried to convince me to appeal because the point that I could have made to like the academic people who make those decisions was like, you know, I was gonna switch majors anyway, which was true. Like I had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life, which was also true, and like, yeah, just basically I could have made a case for myself. But
Yeah.
at the time, I didn't even bother trying making an appeal because in my head I was like, oh well, their policy says if your GPA is under 2.0 for 2 quarters in a row, then you're out. And I was like, and that was me. So I'm out. I'm not even going to try like appealing because there's no way they would say yes because I clearly like fell within these, you know, like stipulations. But,
Yeah.
you know, as I grow up, I realized that all these frameworks are made by people and are managed by people, and people like are not binary. So, you know, you can talk to people, you can get help from people, you can convince people. And that's just like that what I'm trying to say is that yeah, life, you can like choose to try and do anything. Even outside of like the confines of like a system or whatever. And only in retrospect, I feel like in recent years, like if I appealed at that time, I probably would have gotten accepted, like reaccepted back into the university. So that's like my little story there.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but at the time, I wasn't the friend who was telling you to appeal, but I did ask like, are you gonna appeal this? You should probably appeal. I think it's worth trying. But
Right.
to me, when I talked to you, it felt like you had kind of already like accepted. You had already gotten to acceptance of like, no, I'm out. There's no point. Like,
Right, right. And that's genuinely how I thought too,
yeah.
because I didn't like there's it's just like this I didn't have this realization that like I could push like the boundaries
Mhm.
of things that people set in place. And I remember us having that conversation actually.
Yeah.
I had told you, yeah, my roommate wants me to appeal, but like I'm very so clearly out, so I'm not gonna bother.
Yeah.
No, and that's where like I'm like glad you at least have the friends who are there to like push you for these things. You know, like whether you did it before then or not, like it's good to still have those friends that do push you. Which like I will say, my friend, I've mentioned this, I may mention this before, but my friend hates me for that because she's
Just
currently going through medical school, and she messaged me from time to time like, Eric, why did you push me to like take AP classes in high school?
Why
I
did
hate
you?
like I yeah, because I
What?
kept being like, hey, go ahead, like take those AP classes, like make sure you do them, you know, like I know you're smart, like you can do this, don't slack off,
Yeah,
you know. I was
you're a
always
good
pushing her.
friend. What?
Yeah. And now she's like, yo, I'm suffering. I hate everything. This is
What?
awful.
What is it? I do not see the link between you pushing your this is like
yeah.
butterfly effect. You push your friend to take AP classes that are like I'm miserable in med school and
And
it's
now
your
she hates
fault.
her
Yeah,
life.
yeah. What is the
Yeah,
link?
well, because it wasn't just through high. Like I was pushing her pretty much throughout the entirety of her like journey. But like, yeah,
Hmm.
no, pursue like what you want to pursue. But now she's like, yo, I'm fucking suffering.
I think
She's
if
gonna be
you
It's
like, I'm
horrible.
not quitting on your my dream. I'm quitting on yours.
oh my god. I feel like if you
Uh,
push someone to do that and they do it, that means that they like as a friend, I feel like that means that they like wanted to do it and that's like good for their benefit. Or they thought it was a good idea to do at least.
Yeah.
Like
They like believed in what you were
no,
saying.
they
yeah.
definitely do. Like, and I'm super proud of them to see like the journey that they've gone through. Because I basically because back in high school, I mentioned this before. I also slacked the hell off, and I had to retake English 1A. Haha.
Oh
And so
man.
when I retook that, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so I pretty much had to retake English 1A. And then that's where I met a lot of friends, and that's where I met her. So I pretty much saw her grow up from like a freshman up until now, essentially. So it's cool to see that kind of journey and to see like someone that you like just to just see someone grow throughout the years. But yeah, it's cool to have friends like that that will push you end of the day. I guess it's kind of the main point there.
So
Uh,
Yeah.
I just
Or
yeah, oh.
yeah, we're always doing this.
I
Bro,
know.
okay.
Okay, fine. You go. We clearly both want to
We gotta
talk.
like I'm like
What's your
I feel
take?
like we're both in this mindset of like, okay, as soon as like one person's thought ends, like one of us has got to jump in so there's no dead air. Or
Oh,
anyway.
dead air is fine. I think it's just one of those things where when you're talking in person, and this is something that's like kind of like behind the scenes like podcast energy, which is like it's very easy to like tell by body language when someone wants to talk.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no like this isn't like a Zoom meeting where you're like, let me just like raise my hand or whatever and like, like
Mhm.
be like, I want to talk next. So you kind of like jump in when you have like a point you want to like follow up on. And it's okay. It happens.
Yeah.
It's part of the game. It's
I
fine.
mean, we could do it through Zoom.
No,
You
that's
could raise your
okay.
hand.
No,
You sure?
no.
I don't want to hate my life or pay for like premium Zoom. So
Yeah, I was just gonna
yeah.
say, like, to bounce off of like pushing people, I just want to say shout out to my boyfriend Austin because he pushed me to apply to master's programs
Oh,
this
let's go.
year.
Aw.
Nice.
And the reason is because I was basically about to quit because I'm the type of person who has a lot of trouble asking other people for help. And I was originally applying for master's programs, but then when I realized a bunch of them require letters of rec, I basically like quietly quit on the whole idea. But he like encouraged me to keep going and I was just like, fine. And yeah, I think because of him, I'm like headed in directions I wouldn't have otherwise headed. Anyway, shout out
No,
Austin, love you.
No, that's sick.
Yo,
that's
shout out
super
Austin.
awesome. Yeah, let's
Shout
go,
out to
Austin. This is something I feel I have also experienced and learned in like recent years. Is this like that my like kind of, and I don't mean this in like a bad way, but like kind of my like default response, and maybe this like resonates for you too, Julie, is like when
Mhm.
faced with a problem to be like, that seems tough and maybe not easily surmountable. I'm not going to deal with that or go down that like avenue. Like I don't,
Yeah.
and I think it's something that has maybe been to like my detriment historically, where I see something that's tough and I like don't like struggle to work through things, or like kind of like almost make it harder in my mind than it really is. Like,
Right.
you know, to get rec letters, you're like, God, I have to fucking like email professors I haven't talked to in years, like email past employers, or do like shit that I don't want to do. But if you like objectively think about it, like it's not that hard. You
Yeah,
just do
yeah.
it. And then once you do it, you're like, okay, I'm glad I did it. And now like, you know, that's like
Yeah.
the process. And I think I have also gotten better at like doing that and not like allowing myself to just immediately give up when like faced with a challenge.
I feel like when I was younger, I was like super avoidant of like conflicts, and obviously I still am to a certain extent, but it's like as an adult, I start realizing if I don't face things head on, then it just becomes like a bigger problem later on, always.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I totally like it's something I don't know where I learned this kind of like behavior from, probably my parents. But
Probably, yeah.
yeah, it's like something to work on for sure.
Mhm.
I always used to avoid like anything that might be hard or like awkward or like whatever. Um, I mean,
I
I
think
still do to some extent, but it's a
I
judgment
think a
call
lot of times, like growing up, especially around like a lot of Asian culture as well too. Like a big part of it's like, oh, don't be a bother to other people, and
now.
like
Yeah.
kind of stay your lane in a lot of these cases, right? Stay your lane or for your family, kind of a thing. And it's one of those
Oh my
things, and that's
gosh.
why it ties into this idea of like mental health. That's why it's so hard to talk about in a lot of cases because you don't want to burden other people with it, and
I
especially when you're Asian, everyone here knows that kind of, huh, yeah, that's its
That's
own entire
so
shtick.
true. You know, the ironic thing about Asian people is that like when your son or whatever works at Google, all of like the aunties and stuff are like hitting you up and be like, "Oh my God, your son works at Google. Do you think he can like refer my daughter who he doesn't know? Like blah 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 blah." And then like but on the other hand, like if you are trying to get help from other people, your parents are like, "Oh no, don't ask them for help because then you'll owe them. Like then they're gonna like they're gonna have power over you because they owe you like for I have a story about this actually.
Oh.
um I was living apart from my parents for a couple years, and one time I tried to get in my car and leave, but the battery had died, and even though we tried to jumpstart it with like my roommates' cars, nothing was working. So they were like, "Oh well, do you have car insurance? Like, do they offer roadside assistance?" I look it up. They don't offer roadside assistance, but my roommate's insurance does, and they can do it like not just for their own cars, but just like it's like a free service for them as the customer. So I'm like, oh, like, yeah, could you please like call your insurance and help get them to jumpstart my car for me? Meanwhile, I'm like talking to my dad over the phone about this car stuff, and I tell him like, oh, actually everything's fine now because my friend's gonna call his insurance and they're just gonna come over and jumpstart my car, like for free because it's like covered within his plan. And then my dad gets so angry. He's like, no, whatever you do, do not do that. We do not ask help from other people because just like they're gonna expect something out of you in the future, like blah 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 blah. And like here is where I really felt like a culture diff because my dad's from China and stuff, and my mom is too, obviously.
Yeah.
But we grew up here in America, and like to me, my friend is just offering me help because he wants to help me. It's nothing like political. But then I tell this shit to my parents, and they're like, no, 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 no. Under no circumstances
Uh,
can you receive any help, or else we're gonna owe them. And I'm just like, I'm crying out here, bro. I gotta get to work.
No.
No, that is such a vibe of being like of like having immigrant parents and being like the first like generation like born in like the US, where and it's not even just like Asian parents. I have like some friends who are like have immigrant parents from like different countries or like even Europe. But it's still like this just feeling that like they clearly grew up in such a different time and environment and in such a different social structure where like literally they like still react to like social interactions like their lives are on the line essentially, right? Like if you are like
Yeah.
mean to the wrong person or not generous enough to the right person, they will take action against you, and like I don't know, your whole family is like fucked or something. It is really weird to see. I definitely get that with my mom as well, who is also from China, where like just certain like actions she takes or certain things she's not comfortable with, I'm like, why is this so
Yeah.
difficult for you to just be like, oh, they're just doing me a favor. Like this is what, as like an American grown person, like this is just what a friend does
Yeah.
for another friend. And I think like they fundamentally see like friendships and like the relationship as like something different.
Yeah.
Which is
I feel
too
like
bad.
Very transactional.
Yeah, it's way more transactional. That's a
Yeah.
great word.
I feel
Yeah.
like to kind of bounce off that, like I don't know like the background of your parents like financially, but I feel like my parents grew up poorer than how I grew up, so I feel like maybe their instinct for survival and like those kinds of like transactional relationships are a lot more like front of mind, let's say, than
Yeah.
than it is for me to. So like on one hand, I think it's a cultural difference, but I also think it's also like a privilege difference.
Yeah, 100% of privilege, and it's funny because when I talk with some of my friends, like I was recently having a conversation with like multiple friends, and I was like kind of curious, like, hey, what do you think like some of my like biggest like weaknesses or like flaws are, or things I could like work on are, and just generally with that like premise in mind, like one of them was like, I wouldn't say it's like a weakness or something you like need to work on, but like it's very obvious like you come from a very like privileged background. And
Yo,
I'm
Tara,
like,
we've been saying that shit about you for
and
years.
then people have been saying that to me
Making
since
fun
like
of me for eating the eggs.
Yo, when
been,
this guy said he didn't
oh,
like
no.
Popeyes, I was like, bro.
You're like, bro, he grew up different. There's no way.
This dude grew up eating
Oh
chickens
my
that were like
God.
massaged by the
Massage.
gods or
Oh my
something.
God.
This bro don't like
Okay. If their
Popeyes.
thighs weren't massaged, don't give me those legs. I don't want them. No, I mean, and like, I acknowledge it. There's not anything I can really do about it. It's just like who I am. And I think the best I can do is not be like a jerk about it or like an asshole about it or like treat people like this is something that should be expected or like treat it like it's something that like I deserve or that I'm like better for it or any shit like that. It's
Yeah.
just like it's just how I grew up. It's who I am. If it like blends into some of the things I say and I try to be good about it, you know, like it's kind of how it be. Yeah,
You
but
also
it's
do
just
your
fun.
like make your due diligence to learn as well too, right?
Yeah.
Like if whatever's like, oh hey, like that's like if you ever said anything out of pocket, like we would probably call you out on that.
Exactly.
Like
I try and be very like, you know, like what's the word? Not understand. That sounds bad too. But yeah, exactly what you said. Like I try and learn and I try and inform myself when I
I
can,
understand the
Yeah.
pores.
Ah, yes, the benevolence,
Ah,
the
yes.
nobleman.
Thank you, servant. That'll do.
I feel like being a lot more understanding has been like something I've been actively trying to implement in recent years too. I feel like when I was younger, I would always be a lot more like reactionary, not because I like genuinely cared or something, but it was just more of like, oh, it's like funny when I'm like this, or like, oh, it's like more fun if I like react this way, you know, like anyway, intentions or not,
interesting.
like
Yeah.
I realized like it I also am practicing like just when someone says something I don't really necessarily agree with or I'm like why the heck like would you ever think that? I obviously think that internally in my head, but like up front, you know, I try to be understanding and everything and I guess an example of this is like it's a silly example, but in college I used to play a lot more League of Legends than I do currently.
It always comes
And
back to League.
I know, man, I know.
Yeah.
And we would often play the game mode ARAM with me and a bunch of friends, and then you know, there's like this meme in the community saying like can't end on a loss. So then we'd be playing till like 3 a.m. and then sometimes, you know, some friends are like, yo, I'm too tired. I wanna like tap out. And I just be like, dude, what the heck? Like, you know, can't this is Loki sounding kind of like the Taco Tuesday thing. But
Oh no, Julie. There's a pattern.
Yeah, I would just be like playfully shaming them, be like, oh come on, you're gonna end on a loss, bro. Like what the like what it's not even 2 a.m. yet, you're tapping out, you know, obviously as a joke, because 2 a.m. is hella late.
Yeah. Oh yeah. At our age, oh my god, I want to be in
Yeah.
bed way before that.
And a lot of those things I say, it's obviously like playful and stuff, but I've been like introspective like for some years about that kind of stuff, and I realized like it actually adds a bit of pressure on the other party, um, to do something that they ultimately don't want to do. And from my perspective, I'm just being playful. I'm just kind of being fun, like, cause I'm like saying this stuff because I'm down to like go crazy and play ARAMs till 5 a.m. and like.
Eric, are you taking notes?
No, I mean, I'd be lying if I said the entire time you're saying this, I didn't just flash back to me just going to Luke and be like,
Yeah,
you're sleeping
yeah.
at 10? Ugh, what
Yeah.
a fucking loser.
This is why you're so relatable to Julie, Eric. You guys are the same.
Wow.
Sorry, keep going. Yeah.
I like realize because when I'm on the other side of that kind of interaction where I'm the one who wants to go, and then people are like, "Oh, come on, you killjoy," blah 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 blah, and I feel kind of it makes it even harder for me to leave. And then this is kind of like a developed brain moment, but it's like I empathize, now I understand. I can like understand that feeling and project it onto those people also trying to do the same thing, and so I like stopped doing that. Now when people say like, yo, I'm tired, I want to go to bed, I'm like, okay, bye. Like, whereas in college I thought I was like being like fun and like
like playful,
like teasing people.
Yeah, you thought it was more playful. Yeah, you unlocked empathy.
I know.
That's
man.
great. I love that for you. No, I feel very similarly, and this is like kind of a point that I think is important. I think like it's really important to understand why you do the things you do, and I think a lot of times growing up, so many of us are motivated by this feeling of not wanting to be uncool.
Yeah.
Not wanting to like literally just be like take actions that like people will be like, "Oh, that's not cool. Oh, you're so lame. Oh, you're killing the vibe." Like all these things that are like in my mind, like kind of nebulous, and what does that even mean? And I think one of the greatest like revelations and freedoms you can have in your life is that like, no, that's not uncool. I'm tired and my sleep matters to me, and I think I'll be happier getting sleep. And I think people who I would consider good friends would be understanding of that. And like, obviously you don't have to get like that deep when people are like, bro, come on, one more. You'd be like, nah, I'm just too tired, man. I'll catch you next time. It's fine. And if they actually think you're uncool for that, then they're uncool for you.
Right.
Like,
as a type 3, I really relate.
Oh, no! Dude, not the Enneagrams.
Dude, I just watched that episode this morning, so I was like, I need to be all up to date to talk with these guys. What if something comes up from the last episode?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get it if I didn't watch it yet. And I'm so glad I did, because now I understand that comment. Type 3.
Oh my god,
so
type
true.
3. Yeah, Julie, you should take the test too. Oh my god, the homework is listen to our episode.
Dude, Teva, you gotta read the comment I posted. I already did the homework.
Oh my god, don't out me. I've been so busy this week. I literally like just came from a D&D session. I was like running into my apartment being like, I don't want to be late. I scheduled this. I don't want to keep people waiting. But yeah.
Dude, it's no worry. I mean, like, you know me. I don't have I'm free flowing.
No,
bro.
that's fair. This is something
You need
else.
to play TFT.
Oh my god, no, stop.
I'm kidding.
I'll be so tilted if that's what comes out of this. It's like, yeah, so no, Eric and Julie are playing TFT all day. No, that's not what we want here. That is the opposite of what this podcast should do.
I'm surprised that you have the energy to like do a full ass D&D session and then come here and do your podcast. Like, you've known me for like several years now, and I think you know that after a couple hours, my energy level just like drops off a cliff.
We've talked about this, like the social battery. I think, I don't know what happened, but after doing more introspecting and like thinking about things, I've realized two things. One, I have different social batteries. There is a social battery for like hanging out with close friends and people that I like know really well, and like we have history together, and it's like for me, talking with you guys and hanging out with you guys takes way less energy than going to like a party or going like out to a bar with a group of like work friends. Like, it is just very different for me. And then there's like the other social battery, which is hanging out with like a group of people who like your friends, acquaintances, like you get along well, you have jokes and banter, but like there isn't that like level of just comfort. You're more on edge, right? Like you're constantly like trying to regulate yourself more, which I clearly don't do here, as you can tell.
That makes sense though. I mean, I feel like probably that makes sense for you. For me, this is definitely one of those times where I'm like, on high alert because like obviously
Sure.
know you. I don't
Yeah.
really know Luke or Eric that well, and I
No.
gotta come off as like charismatic
Charismatic.
as
Oh, well, that went
possible.
well.
Especially knowing this shit is recorded, like, you know, a couple dozen people gonna be seeing
Oh my
this.
god.
Like,
No, Julie.
okay, I gotta be the funniest person I can ever be
Dude,
right now.
You're so great, Julie. You have so much riz. But also, like, totally understandably, and this is a great teaching moment for like future guests and people that come on. It's gonna be nervous and scary and hard, and you're gonna feel like awkward. And that is how we felt exactly in our first episode. And the reality is, it doesn't come off as like hard as you think it does. Like,
Yeah,
when you listen back to our first episode, I recorded and I was like, damn, we're fucking shit at this. We're so bad. Like, what's wrong with us? And then I listened back and was like, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah,
It's
like
fine.
it wasn't so amazing where I'm like, okay, you know, like
I think
it's
yeah.
huge, but like yeah, it's like, you know, like, it's like I cannot sit there and like cringe the entire time, so that's pretty good.
It's like, think of anything you do for the first time and like how can you expect it to be good, right? Like how can you expect it to just like
Yeah.
work? And like part of it is like, I don't know, I am obviously the most comfortable one here because I just know all of you guys, right? Like I know
Right.
everyone, and for me this is just like a conversation I could have, and I actually think it's really cool that more of my friends who don't know Luke and Eric could like potentially like have a good conversation with them, you know. And now what's gonna happen
Yeah.
is you're gonna meet them in person. You're gonna be like, oh, it's Luke and Eric. Let's go. Right?
Yeah, right. I
So-
will say, like,
Yeah.
this whole day, I knew this was coming up.
Oh, no.
5:30, and I was getting like, and I know
Aw.
it's not a big deal, and I
I
was getting a
know.
little nervous. I was like, oh my god, like, I'm gonna be talking to Luke and Eric, and then like it's gonna be recorded, and then like all these people I don't know are gonna listen to me
Aw.
talk, and like I don't know if
Starstruck,
I'm
I
gonna...
understand.
Oh, but-
No worries.
Let
I'd
me-
be starstruck by us too.
Oh,
We are not.
Julie, were you okay? Teva posted his B reel yesterday.
Julie's not. I don't think Julie's on
I'm
Be
not
Real.
on Be Real,
no,
bro.
no, but I think you were in it.
I was.
No, I don't think so.
It
No.
was a Snapchat.
Wait, really? Wait.
was this
Uh-huh.
was this a few days ago?
You're tripping.
No.
I
Maybe
saw-
it was a
I
Snapchat.
saw
It was a Snapchat.
Teva was with a feminine figure, but
Dude,
What?
I'm in the Bay
No, no,
Area
no,
right
no,
now.
no.
I...
I
No,
don't
no. I'm
think
assuming
that
you're
that
talking about
was
like
Julie.
Discord chat, or do you mean like as a person?
No, it was no. Okay,
You're
hold on.
tripping.
Oh my
You
god.
sent a Snapchat of the recital, right?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. You're
Is
right.
Julie wearing It's Klein merchandise?
Yes.
Oh my gosh!
I missed
Disconnect.
that.
Yes!
I didn't look that closely.
No, no. I noticed that too.
Oh my gosh!
That's
I
funny.
I recognized it immediately.
Dude,
Yeah.
Luke, I bought that merch because of your model photos. I
Oh.
felt like
They were good photos.
as soon as I saw your photos on both like Fuwafi and It's Klein like pages, I was just like, I don't know if I would have bought this stuff otherwise, but I feel like I have to support Luke, who's like modeling these clothes, and like, you know, like give him a little clout. Like, oh, like I bought these clothes because I know Luke. Like, you know what I'm
Ooh, man.
saying?
Influencer marketing really does work.
It works so
Yeah.
well. And honestly, like I will say, like, yeah, I was watching the recital yesterday. So for reference, we have a friend who does this really cool thing where like basically twice a year he will host a piano recital and stream it to us. We're obviously not gonna dox him because he probably doesn't want that. But I think it's a really cool thing to do for your friends. And like as part of that, I was watching the stream and I could basically see all my friends like back like home in the Bay, like together in a room watching my other friend like do his recital, which was sick. And yeah, Julie was wearing It's Klein merch, and I also noticed like, damn, got that floggy fit going, you know?
Yep.
Oh hell yeah! I love
Oh,
the
yeah.
vlogs.
Is that what
Yeah.
you're gonna be wearing, Luke, when you start playing the drums again?
What?
What is the
there-
connection here with the drums, the floggy
there's-
fit?
Okay. So there's a bit of lore here. We
Ooh.
have a friend who works for the local library, and there's gonna be a battle of the bands,
Yeah, pretty
but no one has entered for the adults division of Battle of the Bands.
Okay.
And so there's like a $500 cash prize. And he's devised this plan where he's going to put together a ragtag group of musicians. And we're going to enter, we're going to win the $500, and we're going to reinvest in the library so that they can buy
Aw.
instruments that they can lend out to people.
Wait,
That is really
that's
nice.
so
Yeah.
beautiful. Can I turn that into like a movie or something? Like
Yeah,
that's
he said it's his
literally-
Hallmark movie plan.
Yeah,
it does sound
straight
like a
up.
Hallmark movie. That's so great.
Like, I think it's a really, really cool idea. It's just a matter of scraping by those. And I say, like, Luke said musicians. That term is a very loose term.
He also said ragtag, so you know.
Yeah.
That's still putting a lot more
I mean,
stock into people's abilities, I will say.
Oh no.
it's okay. I haven't played the drums seriously in like 7+ years
Oh
now.
wow.
I played for 7 years. Did I tell you all about my band?
No, I don't think so.
Mm,
Oh, this is a fun one.
Oh my god. Okay. So I remember telling this recently and I remember who I told it to. So anyway, back in senior year of high school, they were having a talent show for like National Honor Society or something like that.
Okay.
And so I decided like, hey, I've been playing the drums for a while. I've been playing it in my like been performing or playing in my local like youth group at church. So I'm like, okay, I could probably do something here. So I got together with some friends, and 2 guys from my church, and then one other guy we went to school, like one guy I went to high school with, and we put together a band. And yeah, so we performed at that, and then someone in National Honor Society was also like in like Interact. Do you remember that club?
oh, I know that.
Interact
I
back in
don't
high
remember
school.
that, but I believe
They're
it.
basically like a subsidiary of Rotary Club, but
Oh,
for
shit.
like high schoolers.
Oh, I do remember this. Yeah,
So,
no one
yeah.
was in that.
They were gonna have a charity event, like charity performance talent show thing, like charity dinner,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Oh yeah, you should totally sign up for that." I feel like I'm doing a terrible job telling the
Really?
story.
No, wait,
I've
really?
told Teva.
Yeah, no, we've talked about this on the pod. I remember this,
Of course.
but I assume Eric has heard it, and neither of us have. No, I feel
Eric
like
has lived it.
Oh shit! I feel like
Yeah.
it's like flowing pretty well. So you got like a band, you have these
Yeah.
opportunities.
Yes, we would just play covers of stuff, of course.
Yeah,
because,
you're like
you know,
a high school band. Like if it
Exactly.
doesn't sound terrible, that's a success.
No, we were okay. Honestly, I was talking about how I had played in like church band,
Yeah.
like the youth band. That was like for 4 years in a row, and so I had played with the main guitarist and the bassist basically every week for years,
Okay, shit.
and so
yeah.
we clicked really well. We also had a like band uniform that we all wore.
Oh my
which
god, you guys are
was-
so cute.
We would wear black jeans, white collared shirts that were tucked in, and we'd wear black bow ties.
You guys are so
Okay.
adorable.
Cute.
Yeah. But anyway, so we pull up at the Interact event.
Yeah.
And I think that was my life when my life peaked.
No,
What?
no, it definitely is not, and I feel offended.
No,
That-
I mean, I'm kidding for sure. But I
Uh-huh.
think that was the most fun I've ever had performing. Everyone was super into it. I think we did Treasure by Bruno Mars, and we did Midnight Memories by One Direction. And this was when One Direction was huge. So everyone knew the lyrics to these songs. Everyone in the crowd was like singing along to it. We also met and became good friends with some of the other acts there. There was like another band that performed, and then there was like a dance crew. And so we had like a fan club going. It was really funny.
This was your. I don't know if you've watched it yet, Luke, but this was your Bocchi the Rock moment.
Yeah.
This is when you
my-
peaked.
This is
yeah.
like I don't need to watch that show. I've lived it.
You won the hearts of your fans through your charismatic playing. That's beautiful.
that was yeah, I actually met a lot of people through that as well, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, anyway, I'm being pulled out of retirement. I'm the grizzled veteran.
Oh no.
But
Wow.
Yeah.
I have to put up with these like young up and comers.
Dude, this literally.
Namely Eric, who is learning the guitar right now. Same with our friend Peach, who's also learning the guitar right now.
This is so cliche. Yeah, it's just like it's like the X-Men to like Logan, where you're like
Exactly.
coming back out for one last ride, trying to train the next generation of people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also super busy.
Yeah.
Like, I literally told our friend who's putting it together, Twisty, I told him, like, yeah, if you can, I'm free after from like 6 to 8 p.m. weekdays. If you organize everything, I will show up and I will do my best.
No, like straight up, when Twisty like messaged me and was like, "All right, I got Luke." I was like, "Shut up, you did not." Like, there's no way Luke, who's consistently busy all the time, was able to actually find the time to do so. But yeah, he actually got him, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
I have a kind of question slash tangent that bounces off of this, but like, do you ever feel like sometimes like there are decisions you have in life where you're kind of deciding between like what's like comfortable and like something that will bring you like greater joy and fulfillment?
No,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
All the time.
Like,
all
I
the
feel like
time.
this is a situation where like I'm glad you're doing this because this sounds like a lot of fun, but it's gonna take like a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort. But like 10 years from now, when we record like episode like 300, you're gonna be able to look back
Damn,
on
high
this.
hopes for the podcast.
I know. You know, putting the
So-
cart before the horse, but
Maybe I missed it. Luke, did you mention when all this is supposed to happen?
Oh yeah, so basically we need to film and have a submission in by June 21st. And then we might play
Yeah.
in person sometime in July.
okay.
That's super cool.
That's like
Yeah.
not a lot of time. Yeah.
No, it's like
No.
no time at all.
And we don't even have a set vocalist is like actually the best part of it all.
Oh, wait, are you guys playing together for this thing?
Eric's in the band.
He's in
I've
the
already
ragtag group.
I've told my friend here that I'm not confident in my ability, seeing as I'm only recently breaking back into guitar, to actually be able to play things confidently. But we'll see. I mean, he's always wanted to make a band, and this is an extension of that. So regardless of how this goes as far as the Battle of the Bands stick, he definitely wants to keep this going beyond that. So it's a long-term investment on my end here. But as for Luke, I don't know, do you think you want to stick with it like past the whole Battle of the Bands thing?
Well, my last band died because people wanted to play anime music.
Yeah.
Wait, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, wait, whoa. What's it? Anime music slaps, bro. Like, what's the problem?
Yeah, but it was in Japanese, and we're like, we don't understand what they're saying. Yeah.
Anyways,
I mean,
anime was a mistake. Is
That's
that's
so
the biggest reason why we brought this
Full
all
the
up.
circle.
world just
yeah.
wasn't ready back then. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's actually so true. I feel like anime has definitely popped off like in the past like few years. Like it's way more popular than it even was when we
It
were
was
in high
Attack
school.
on Titan, man.
True.
For real. That
Attack
shit
on-
exploded into the
Mhm.
mainstream.
And Demon
And then-
Slayer. Now Demon
Yeah.
Slayer, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very
and
mainstream.
now these normies be talking about anime, and I'm like,
I
that's
know.
really cool.
You just
man.
walk down the street, you see a random person, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I watched Demon Slayer." Like, bro, really?
Yeah.
No.
I feel like anime isn't even like weird anymore. Like when
Well,
I was in middle
We should
school.
make it
Well-
weird again. We should bring that back.
we should make it weird. We need
Make
more
anime
big
weird again.
titty. Yeah.
We should bring that back too.
Oh my
When
god.
I was in middle school, I remember when people would ask me if I liked anime, I would try to keep it under wraps. I'd be like, "Oh, like
Yeah.
I like kind of like watched it like a little bit,
You're
I
like-
guess." But the truth is, I did watch a lot of anime.
You're like constantly gauging to see how like into it they are. So you're like, "Oh yeah, I watched a little," and then when they're like, "Yeah, so I watched this show," and you're like, "That's kind of a deep cut show. Oh, maybe they're more into it. Oh yeah, I also watched that show. Oh, what'd you like about it?" And you kind of like gauge their interest until you're like both on the same page.
Yeah, like when I was younger, it was like way more like I'm trying to hide the fact that I liked anime. Right now, it's just like, okay, I'm gonna mention I like anime in my work meetings, and people are like, "Oh, cool, what do you watch?" Like, yeah.
I
Mhm,
think it
mhm.
all tracks back to like also like this lessening feeling of like wanting to be uncool and like accepting yourself
Yeah.
for who you are and be like, yeah, I fucking watch anime. It helps that it's more socially acceptable and I can like kind of say that and not be like looked at weird, but like it's also
Yeah.
like not a big deal. Like why should it ever have been like a big deal?
Dude, but would you tell people that you like watching VTubers? If you did,
I
if
don't
you
know,
did.
Eric. Would
yeah,
you?
Eric,
Nope.
would you?
Nope.
Yeah, you
To
see,
be fair,
it's-
I don't. I mean, honestly, okay. Nowadays, it's so much more acceptable as well too. I think because, okay, I see it as this thing of there's Japanese VTubers and then there's just people who use a VTuber avatar, right?
Okay.
Like,
Yes.
I think it's one of those things where with that, I think it's so much more like general, like, yeah, some people just don't want to show their face or they're less comfortable with themselves and they just want to stream, right? But they also want
Yeah.
to provide something more engaging than just a voice. And I think that's like way more common nowadays. Whereas opposed to like, yeah, I watch idols, but they're also VTubers. Like, I feel like that's a very different connotation, I think.
Yeah, I think this kind of gets into like talking about streamers and like, if people are familiar with like Twitch or like YouTube streamers. And I think being a VTuber kind of has like some very cool benefits, one of which is like much better anonymity if you are trying for
Mm-hmm.
that. I think being a streamer, like I could never do it. Like I say as I'm on the podcast that I
Nah.
wanted to push for, but like
It's different. It's different.
it's different. It's just like a difference of scale and like the target audience. And like for me, like I want friends and friends of friends to be able to listen to this. And if more people want to and enjoy it, that's great, sure. But like I never expected to like pop off to a point where like complete like many complete strangers are like watching it and like form a parasocial relationship in any way.
Right.
Um but I think like being a streamer, like having your name and face out there, having like all this information about you and people just being able to like look that up is like really terrifying.
It's so sussy,
Yeah.
especially if you're a female.
Oh yeah, and being is even worse because not only is like all that shit out there, you also have to deal with like constant like verbal abuse, literal like verbal sexual harassment. It's so awful and so messed up. And I do think being a VTuber by like hiding your face, not like stating like a lot of stuff as openly does can definitely help with that. I also think
Mm-hmm.
there's almost like different expectations for like VTuber streamers versus like IRL streamers, if you will. Like I think there's a different culture that kind of goes along with it. Like I think a lot of VTubers do like have a bit more of like almost that like anime culture like influence them
Yeah.
because the model itself is like very anime, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I actually have played around with the idea of like trying to get into streaming.
Ooh.
I still haven't though because for one thing, it's embarrassing. Like it's embarrassing trying to venture into that space and like you're actively just trying to get clout. Like I just hate that. It's like it's cringe, but it's
Hmm.
what like the act of streaming kind of is, or the business of streaming. Let's say that.
Yeah, if you want to get like really into the business, yeah, I think it depends on what your goals are for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And like, I've had a couple people tell me that they think I would be a good streamer, and like low key, I get it. No,
Okay.
that's the kind, tune my own horn a little bit, but I one of the reasons that other than like it's embarrassing that I wouldn't want to like really try for it is like, oh well, you get a lot of like initial engagement if you like show your face or have a cam, and I'm just like, dude, I'm not really trying to like get into all of that. So I like
Hmm.
actually have played around with the idea of like it's like VTubers, but they're just 2D. They're called PNG tubers.
Hmm.
And it's just like they flip between two frames, one frame when you're not talking, and then like a different frame when you are. And I think those are super fun ideas. And I don't
Yeah.
know. I will see. I am like kind of curious to see where I could potentially take that kind of thing. But again, it's just so embarrassing.
I
No,
yeah,
I
go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was like I definitely relate to that because it's one of those things where uh like working where I work right now, like networking is always going to be really important, but it's something where I hate networking just for the sake of networking, right? And being
Yes.
like, I'm talking to X and X because they're a higher up and that could get me ahead in like different connections and or in the job that I have. And it's just like I understand it's really important, right? Same thing with
Yeah.
doing social media for a business nowadays is essential. Like you can't run a business successfully nowadays without having a strong social media presence or being active within some form of engagement online.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult. But I hate doing that because it's doing engagement just for the sake of engagement, right? It's not like it doesn't feel like a genuine thing. And granted, it doesn't need to be because that's the not the point of it, right?
Right. It circles back to like that kind of stuff just being purely transactional,
Mm-hmm.
which I just hate. And me and Teva talked about this
Yep.
when you were back recently about like how I just hate like all these relationship like transactions, like, oh, you help me and then I'll help you so we can both gain like explicitly gain something tangible. I just feel I just hate that so much,
Yeah.
and it's cringe. And I've had to act like I've gone to like some job fairs or whatever and act enthused about how, oh my God, hi, what is your company about? Like, I would love to learn about what your company does. In reality, like, I don't give a shit. I want money.
You're like, just vomiting
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah,
I have,
Wow.
I agree.
I have another kind of funny story.
Yeah.
So in college, I majored in accounting, and we have these job fairs specifically geared towards accounting students. And in one of my classes, we had an exercise one time where we were supposed to partner up with someone in the class and talk about something. I don't remember what, something. And so I go up to this guy who looks like he hasn't partnered up with anyone yet, and I'm like, "Hey, do you want to like partner up and talk about whatever we're supposed to talk about?" And he's like, "No, I really can't do this right now." And I'm just like, okay. So I walk
Okay,
away
yeah.
and go back to my desk and just sit there and not do the activity because this dude like basically said, "No, I'm not doing it." And meanwhile, everyone else has partnered up. So then comes along this job fair, and I'm standing in line, and wouldn't you know it, that guy who rejected me in class is standing right in front of me in this line. And he's like playing it up. He's like talking to everybody. He's like, "Oh my God, hi. Like what's your name? Like what do you do?" And then, since I'm standing right behind him, he like starts trying to network with me too. He was like, "Hi, what's your name?" And I'm like, "Hi, I'm Julie." And I literally call him out. I was like, I might be mistaken, but didn't I walk up to you the other day to do this class activity and you said, "No, I can't do this right now"? And then he was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, I was just so tired, blah, 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 blah." And I was just like, dude, this dude is a fake ass bitch.
Yes, go off,
Hell
please.
yeah.
I hate
Yeah.
people like that.
No, the entire time you were like saying that, I was getting worked up. I'm like, man, I fucking hate people like that. Like, I
Yes.
actually can't stand that.
Dude,
I
I totally
Oh.
agree. And like, listen, I can empathize. I get it. You want to get a job. You're trying to, make yourself look good, blah 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 blah. But don't be like, I don't know, just don't be like totally rude and then like, I don't know, man. Like, just be nice.
Don't be a fake ass bitch. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a take about this kind of networking and stuff because like being in like a PhD program and trying to potentially transition into a job in like industry, a lot of like opportunities are found by like knowing people like at the right
Yeah.
time and like talking with people. And I think I go to like a lot of these career panels trying to like help educate and teach people what to do, and it's really difficult because you basically take PhD students who, if you think about doing a PhD as something very difficult and hard, I agree, but it's also like kind of like becoming a doctor where it's like a very railroaded and like safeguarded path. It's like if you take
Mhm.
these steps, you will likely succeed. And that like gives you like confidence in what you're doing. Whereas transitioning into like a job after a PhD, if you're not going into a more academic route, is much more freeform. It's like, yeah, you can apply to a bunch of jobs. It might work, it might not work. Most people get their jobs by like talking to someone and then being like, "Oh, I have a position here, or maybe try this or something," right?
Mhm.
And so a lot of the advice you get is like, yeah, you got to network with people, you got to know people. And like,
I just
I
hate that.
hate that so much, and I refuse to do it at that level because I just fundamentally disagree with it. And my take is I think you can network there. I think networking in a healthy manner exists where one, just by like virtue of going to like either your classes or like meeting people or knowing people just like organically, like they
Yeah.
become a part of your network. By like working a job, people at your work become a part of your network and you can like reach out to them more easily. And then two, you don't have to do this fake ass like, "Oh my God, it's so nice to meet you. Oh, how are you?" Oh, like all this shit of like being fake. You can just be like, "Hey, it's nice to meet you. Oh, what do you do?"
Yeah.
Like you can
Yeah.
you can still be a human about it and be like, "Oh, that's like, oh, you work in this. Yeah, how is that? Is that like hard? Like it sounds difficult." Like you don't have to be as much of a kiss ass, and like you can actually genuinely care about either the topic you're working in or the job. I don't know.
I think just having like a shred of like actual interest in what they're talking about, or a shred of empathy. I think those are the one
Yeah,
two things.
I
It's
agree.
like being able to like show a little bit of it helps you. I think, especially for people like us who legitimately do not like networking just for the sake of a transaction. I think it really helps to just have like, okay, I'm actually interested in what they're talking about, and if you're not, just like don't do it. I think to an
Yeah.
extent. like there's a certain point where you have to put yourself out there, even though you don't like it or you're uncomfortable, and that's part of life and development and growth. But there's a certain point of like, if you are forcing yourself to network and you despise it, and you were just sitting there the entire time, like, man, I don't give a shit what this person's actually trying to tell me, then it's just like, don't do it. Like, it doesn't do you or that other person any like favors at that point.
I think you can politely like excuse yourself or be like polite, like, oh, that's great,
Mhm.
sounds interesting for you. I don't think that's for me. You know, just be like an honest human, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Before we get too far down the marketing hole, I did want to go back to like the VTubing and like streaming stuff. Where
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm just kind of
Oh
curious.
yeah, you're becoming a VTuber now. You're right. Tell us more about that, Teva.
No, no shot.
No, I'm
No,
kidding.
explain.
I'm fucking
I
with
was
you, I'm fucking with
curious.
you.
I was just curious because you mentioned how like, yeah, you want to like stream for the clout or like whatever, and like I don't know if like maybe this is like too much pressure to put on you, Luke, but I know it like for a period of time you like would stream on and off like for friends mostly. Is there anything like from your experience that you like want to speak to about like why you enjoyed like streaming sometimes or why you kind of like stopped doing it or what it
Did you
kinda felt
enjoy
like?
streaming even?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it was during a period of time where people were not leaving their houses.
Sure, during like COVID
And
era.
so, yeah, it was a good way to socialize with my friends,
Mhm.
and just be able to play games. I don't think I would want to stream again unless I had enough time, general free time in my life, because like right now I'm filling up my free time with spending time with people
Right.
and literally tending to my Maslow's hierarchy of needs at the
Oh,
bottom level,
Oh,
just to make
Jesus.
sure I can be self-actualized like everywhere
Yeah.
else I am,
Yeah.
you know. I think it's, you have to be okay with just being like dealing with the awkwardness of not knowing if people are watching. And you have to be able to like just enjoy playing the game you're playing. And it can be kind of hard to multitask and like talk to the people watching you while you're in game too. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I think that's a really good take. I will say I recently saw a tweet by like ProZD that basically like talked about like doing let's plays on his like YouTube channel and just like revisiting a game he tried to let's play. For people who don't know what a let's play is, it's pretty intuitive. You person plays video game, talks like records it and talks about it as they play it and then uploads a video of them playing the game. And he basically said like, yeah, by like doing the let's play, it really took me out of just enjoying the game. And so that
Yeah.
multitasking element of like playing game, enjoying game, and like trying to be entertaining at the same time is like really difficult.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of streamers and like even people like on YouTube will model their content off of what they see.
Yeah.
Like, you know, YouTuber voice is a whole thing, TikToker
Sure.
voice, Valorant player
Oh.
voice is a
Oh
whole
my
thing, right?
god.
Oh boy.
Valorant
don't-
voice.
Oh boy.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
you don't necessarily need to play into that if you don't want to, right? You can make what you're streaming whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
But depending on like what you're trying to achieve and what you're looking to do, like on some level you might have to play the game a bit, right?
Yeah,
You
if
do, right?
if you
Like,
want like
and that's
actual
where-
success, yeah.
I feel like if I ever started streaming, I would probably be good at the like interaction and streaming portion of it, right? I could build those
Yeah.
parasocial relationships with people. But it's just one of those things of like, I don't know. I see a lot of those streamers where they build a brand, you know, it's like, oh, welcome to the community, we're a family. I like, my eyes roll so far into the back of my head when I see that shit. It's just,
I kind of get you. Because they're kind
Of
of
course
like
you do.
presuming that they're like something worthy of your worship or like not worship, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
patronage, I guess, if you want
Yeah.
to put it in like a letter term. Yeah, and just, I don't know. It's, you can tell like some people like legitimately they're like, oh, I really care about you being. I was just like, no, you don't. Like I can tell you don't. There's not an ounce of any genuine like emotion in what you're saying. You know, it's just, I don't know. That drives me up the wall personally. But that's more tangential than anything else.
This
But-
whole topic kind of reminds me, well, one, it reminds me I have tried to do a let's play before and it was so cringe. I
Oh,
like
yeah.
unlisted everything. And then two, there to speak to like the YouTube voice or whatever, you know, like the character, the personality you put on for your content. it just reminded me. I used to watch this Let's Player. His name is Chugga Conroy. Have you guys heard of him?
I have not.
Name's familiar for sure.
No.
Oh, yeah, I think he was pretty big back in the day, but it's funny because I watched his old Let's Plays. He's like totally chill, pretty funny guy. And recently I was like, oh, I wonder what this guy is up to now. And he's still making Let's Play videos, so I click on one, and he's like completely changed. He's like, "What's up, guys?"
Oh,
It's,
no.
And I'm like, oh my, and you can hear it in his voice. The quality of his voice is different. It's a lot scratchier, a lot raspier, and it low-key like made me a little sad.
Like the Jacksepticeye, like the reverse Jacksepticeye kind of a deal.
Yeah, I was like, damn, this guy like found some success playing Let's Plays, and now he's like just continually piled on like this character that he plays, puts on in front of people, which like isn't necessarily fake, but it's definitely not like 100% natural, let's say.
Right, and it's not what
100%.
you enjoyed them for end of the day as well, too, right? It's a departure from kind of like what you
I was
appreciated.
I was just kind of like, he definitely is still a hard worker. He puts so much effort into his videos, but it was just kind of sad to like hear his raspy voice from like how loud he was like projecting himself to be, because like that's kind of what he was known for. Like sometimes he would have these loud, funny moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like being like super loud and shouting and kind of like this. It's like slow when you're the one doing it, but like over time, like yeah, if you take a video from like 3 years ago and then like take like compared to the modern day, it's like these people kind of like, again, they, if you want to like succeed, it is best to play the game and play the algorithm and play the tropes and be like, what's working, like literally doing market research. What are other successful YouTubers doing, and how can I basically like copy that with while putting my own twist on it that makes it mine.
Yeah.
But
That
yeah, I don't know.
that was to go back to my first thing that was I tried to do a Let's Play once.
Yeah.
That was like kind of, so those like loud funny people were like the kind of people that I was watching. So when I tried to make a Let's Play, it was of Undertale. It was like a simple
Aw.
enough game, in my opinion, that I
Yeah.
could like talk over it and play it at the same time. For the record, I am not a very big gamer. A lot of like simpler games are still really hard for me.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and I tried to do this whole Let's Play thing. I like shared my first video with a bunch of people, and even though it just felt so awkward doing it, because one, I obviously wasn't used to it, and two, I was like trying to be something I wasn't. I was like kept trying to have commentary no matter what, say things about what's happening on screen, like no dead air, blah 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 blah, trying to be like, I don't know, just like fill the dead space. And it was just like the most awkwardest experience of my life. But I also felt like I couldn't quit halfway through, because I already shared like my first video with a bunch of people.
Just
Did you play
episode
through the
one.
whole game?
I only played through one possible ending.
Oh,
and
okay,
then-
okay. That's
and then-
still a lot of time.
Yeah, at a
Oh
certain
my God.
point, I was fighting one of the bosses, and like, again, I was like really trying hard not to have any dead air. So I was just like casually, oh, I think in one of the other time, like if you play it this way, then you get this ending. And then someone in my comments was like, yo, why'd you spoil it?
Oh no.
Oh
I was like, I'm so sorry. I was just struggling to find anything to say.
That's so funny. I think this is why I don't think I would want to be like a streamer or like a YouTuber in like that domain of like playing games and doing Let's Plays. I think it is actually really difficult to sit in a room by yourself, play a game, and be entertaining. Like that's
Yeah.
so hard, in my opinion, to like be genuinely entertaining and like do it while being yourself. Like some people are probably just like naturally funny and able to like take out like the humor of the situation they're in the game and do it naturally. But you're right, there's all these things you think about, like filling dead air and like being entertaining whilst also like trying to genuinely like play and enjoy the game.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot to juggle, and I think it is really difficult, and that's why I instead chose to start a podcast with two of my closest, yeah, literally, unironically, with two of my closest friends who like, we're all like such And part of this is like we would just hang out like naturally in person or on Discord, and we'd have like super fun and just like natural conversation. I'm like, why don't we just record this
Yeah.
shit? This is just fun.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, you know, for Luke and Eric, it's like I have a lot of faith in their ability to, as you put it, fill dead air. But like,
Right.
hopefully most of the time it's not dead air. And obviously sometimes you need a transition from one topic to another, and it's like a little jerky. But like low key, like you can just get rid of that dead air with editing. It's really not that hard. It's just it's a gap in the audio file, and you're like, let's get rid of that so we sound cool and natural.
Yeah, you know what? That feeling actually that reminds me like whenever we had regular calls and with our high school friends,
Mhm.
you know, some funny ass shit would happen, and I swear I had that same feeling too. I was like, dude, is anyone recording this? Like
Yeah.
we could just start a podcast.
Yeah, we could start a podcast. We could have like funny clips. You could have like clip compilations, so it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
like all in like one sequence. You can have like things, but that requires more editing.
Right.
Yeah, it
That-
like funny moments happen just naturally when you're not like on camera, and it's kind of nice to have something to like like remember them with, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I remember because like I tried to stream a couple times within the past year, and it's just so awkward not having someone to bounce off of or like to talk to, you know, the whole solo thing. And if, you know, if I'm just by myself, I'm not going to be talking to myself. But
Yeah.
then sometimes people will appear in the chat, like some of my friends, and I'm like, oh, hey, what's up, blah, 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 blah. It's just so awkward because if they show, let's say you have a lurker or something, they don't say anything in the chat and they're just watching you not say anything. So, what I tried to do to get around that was I was playing Valorant, and I don't normally use voice
oh
comms
no, you're one
because
of those people.
yeah, because I don't normally use voice comms because one, I'm a
Any
female, two,
mics?
I'm bad.
Yeah.
So like, I don't. First of all, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be communicating. I don't even know what's supposed to be happening. And two, if they find out I'm a girl and I'm doing bad, I'm gonna get flamed for being a girl.
No, I totally respect that. Fuck, like being
Yeah.
a girl and having to use voice comms is so frustrating and annoying because people are just assholes for no reason. I totally
Yeah.
get that. I more meant
But
the
the
second part where it's like you're doing it for content. I see you.
Because like, yeah, the couple times I tried streaming to like try and like make it just like at least like not completely silent for like a random viewer potentially. I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna calm in these games because then they know I'm like, hi, I'm alive and I'm here. But yeah, that's like a whole separate. I have not streamed a lot. It just makes me feel so awkward.
Yeah, no, I mean for sure. Like I think there was definitely a time, especially during the pandemic, I was like, what if I streamed too? It's just because everyone and their mothers was doing it.
Yo,
So I was like, what
true.
if I did it as well too? And I was like, there was like two big blocks to that, and one of them was definitely like, God, what if I'm just not entertaining? Then like, what's the point, you know? Because
Yeah.
if I'm gonna do something, I at least want to like provide some value to someone. But that was like a really big part to it. But at least for Valorant, there's a lot of women that play Valorant. Like
That's true.
it is
actually.
a lot. Like at least nowadays, I feel like whenever I play Valorant with people, no one even bats an eye. Like it's like, oh, cool, another one.
I'm glad that's your
Damn.
experience. I feel like a lot of women have a different experience where they talk and then they get flamed for being a woman or harassed or like
Well,
commented on.
I will say in Valorant, okay, I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like I have, in terms of like pitch, I have a pretty androgynous pitch, but I think my tone, it kind of gives away like that I speak a bit more femininely.
Like your inflections and things like that, right?
Yeah, but I find that if I just calm like short stuff in Valorant and I intentionally use like a deeper pitch that's still like within my natural range, people either don't realize I'm a girl, or if they do, they don't really say anything about it. It's true, like it's true. There are tons of girls playing Valorant, but I feel like, you know, coming from as an old League of Legends gamer, I would play all these like girly enchanter like characters, and whenever things were going bad, like not a lot of people, but some people really would flame me for being a girl. And you know, those kind of negative experiences just stick out even if it's not like a lot of the time. So I feel like I just brought that kind of like mindset into
Mhm.
Valorant. But it is true. A lot of girls play Valorant and a lot of them use voice comms, and like girls are becoming really like visible in Valorant. So
Like, no joke. I feel like maybe 25% of the like women at work that I work with, they probably play Valorant.
hey yo,
Like, it's legitimately so many.
hey
And it's
yo,
just one of those things
girl
where it's kind of cool.
gamers.
No, like actually though, right? Like, and it's funny because a chunk of the people that like you never meet someone where like and we mentioned this before, like you click, like whatever for whatever reason, like you click really quickly.
Yeah.
It always ends up like just play games. And I this happens all the time, and I don't know what it is. If it's just that spidey sense. Like I have a pretty good gut intuition,
Yeah.
but a
Mhm.
lot of them, yeah, they just end up playing games, and it's like, oh, cool, awesome. Like we actually have things to easily relate on. End of the day.
Yeah, I feel very similar where like all the closest friends I've made in Portland have all either been from literally the Bay Area originally or from like a major city like New York or something. And then for me, the common interest is not always games, but like for me it's like, "Oh, do you like basically food? Are you interested in food and like
Mhm.
exploring and trying new places in the city? Oh, we'll probably like click." Like it's like this shared like culture and idea of like, ooh, gotta try this new hype place or gotta like test out like this dish or whatever. Like, I don't know. So I definitely agree that there is this like sense of like just certain people you just like click really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Um basically
Yeah,
like based on shared culture usually.
The
I feel
vibes are
like
right.
Yeah.
The moon
Immaculate.
signs aligned.
Yeah.
immaculate.
Immaculate vibes.
Dude, I freaking love it when you guys say immaculate vibes. That shit just cracks me
Dude,
up.
it is so funny.
And another one I like is sublime. Fucking, or I don't know if
Sublime.
you guys say sublime,
Probably
but I
not
just know the
us.
fucking the
Mhm.
Europeans love saying
The
sublime.
Europeans.
Um,
God
but
damn.
yeah, to like kind of like, I mean, I don't know how much bouncing off you guys want to do because we've been going for a while,
We're
but
probably gonna wrap up soon. Yeah, we have time for like
okay,
one more
it
thing.
just reminded me of like one little thing. When I first started my job straight out of college, I I was like not shy about the fact that I liked gaming and I play League of Legends and blah 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 blah. And I like actively asked if like fellow coworkers played games, and I was so surprised when most of them didn't.
Oh,
I
that
was
is
like
surprising.
Mm.
I was in my little, gamer club bubble in college, and my impression of it was that it was getting bigger and bigger, and it is, and still it was, and it still is. But sometimes I'm just like still kind of shocked, like how uncommon it still is.
Yeah, I think we obviously like have a very biased perspective because of like just
Right.
our interests and like, you know, in general, like being in the Bay Area around people from the Bay Area, like it's just more of a common like interest just based on the like the type of people who tend to live there. Like
Yeah.
it is very like biased. And then you go to like a normal like regular ass company and you're like, damn, these are boring ass adults. What do they even do like for
Yeah,
fun?
then they be saying shit like hiking or like taking care of plants, and I'm like, you
Oh
Climbing.
guys don't play games?
no, yeah, y'all don't play games, dude. This is my experience now. I'm like, my friends are getting more and more into like outdoorsy stuff. I'm like, ah, shit.
Oh my
I just
god.
bought a pair of hiking shoes. I'm like, ah.
Oh, dude, that's so
And you're looking at
true.
climbing shoes
I
as
got climbing shoes
well.
as well. I'm gonna
Mm.
before you know it, I'll be like, yeah. So
Licking my lips.
here's my fucking yeah, here's my belay. Like it's really like cool. Oh yeah, this is my like hiking backpack. Yeah, I camped for like 3 days out
Ah.
at like the dude. That's not gonna happen. But I do think I am interacting with more people with those interests more and more.
Yeah,
And it's just
that's
like
so true.
part of being in like a city like Portland where like everyone's fucking outdoorsy.
Yeah, I
But yeah,
think it comes with age too.
yeah, but actually, I really like the balance. Like, I think one of the issues I realized or struggle with is that I like playing games and gaming is a lot of fun, and I like using games as a way to like decompress or like hang out with friends and socialize.
Hmm.
But I've like kind of realized in my head that it's almost a little maladaptive, and sometimes I definitely play games like for too much or for too long. And when I look back, I'm like, I wasn't really like having fun or building experiences that I will like remember and enjoy long term. And it's something
Yeah.
like I've thought
Yeah.
about. And I think you definitely can have that with like gaming. Like I think we often do, like Luke, Eric, and I will still talk about like certain Magic the Gathering games we played or certain like
Yeah.
Valorant moments that happened, but like they're still few and far between versus like, hey, do you remember that time we all like went to Seattle on a trip for like with friends or something? You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's a different level of like having fun, but fun in a way that like builds experiences and you can like reminisce about way better.
Exactly, yeah. And like you guys
Totally
love hearing
true.
about me talk about like shiny Pokemon. Like you guys.
Yeah, you get a lot of meaning from the Pokemon community game. We know, yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
my life's
And-
goal at this point.
And I think that's something that I've realized, and part of why I'm like really into this like idea of having a podcast is because I do think like I love the experience of like going through my day and having a friend be like, yo, I listened to the latest episode, this thing was sick, or like, dude, I so super agree with this take or whatever. And it's like, oh shit, free dopamine out of nowhere for just talking with you guys. Let's go. That's great.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. And I think you've been a huge part of that, Julie.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Oh,
for the...
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm-
I do be leaving extensive comments every time.
Yeah, yeah. No, you definitely do. No, it's great. And I hope more viewers feel inspired by this episode to like leave comments and engage because, you know,
Yeah, guys, leave your comments. You know, I'm
Yeah.
going to be watching that shit like a hawk because I'm in the episode, okay?
yeah,
Tell me
Julie-
how cool I sounded, how smart I am.
Like,
you know.
think about how much dopamine value you get for typing one comment. You get like 4 people's dopamines leveled up. Like, it's kind of sick.
Oh.
I will
It's so
like and
simple.
pin your comment. So please comment. I will read it for realsies. and yeah, it means stuff to us, especially because like hopefully we like actually know who you are in person, and that's really cool. Is there anything else you wanted to say to the viewers, Julie, or anything you wanted to shout out before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me come on. Hello to all the strangers who don't know me. Thanks for listening. I hope it was interesting. Luckily, you're segueing out of this episode because I'm getting kind of tired. I don't know if you can tell.
It's an endurance thing. Yeah, no, we've been
Yeah.
going for a little longer than normal, but that's partially because I'm like, oh, we have a guest. Let's get them for all they're worth, you know?
We'll milk the value.
Yeah.
And listeners, if I sounded lame, don't you worry. I'm actually cool in real life. So, you know, appearances are deceiving. If I was cool though, that's
I
fine.
thought you were
Not-
cool.
Vouch.
Not to get too like sappy or mushy, but Julie is definitely one of the friends, like one of the first friends I feel I really made where I like really appreciated her ability to introspect and just like talk about life with. So like
Dude, you for me too, man.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm really glad we got to have you on, and like I'm sure the viewers like that'll come through, you know.
Oh hell yeah.
But yeah.
One more thing.
Yes.
Yo, if you guys have any like beginner UI UX design roles at your company, please refer me. I'm really struggling. Thank you.
Yes, go off queen. Yes.
Networking.
Plug network.
Let's go.
Where are UI UX fans at? Hello?
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Okay,
All
that's
right.
it. That's it.
No,
Okay.
awesome.
Thank you, Teva and Friends family. We are so much more than just a podcast, you know. We really want to foster that kind of community with all of our listeners. You mean the most to me. I love you all so much, and I know you all personally. You know.
So
yeah.
please follow the link to our Patreon and donate to us to give us real life money.
Yeah, totally. You know, it means so much to us here just to have you listening, and you know, we're not like the other podcasts.
So yeah, if you too want to be a guest on the Teva and Podcast Friends family, I don't know what words I just said and came out of my mouth. Let us know. Reach out. We'd love to have more guests. This was a lot of fun, and we'll catch you all next time.
All right, bye.
All right, later.
Later.